Chapter 999. Jiang Chen and the others had just come out of the Xianxin Hall and planned to go to the next house. Unexpectedly, they were stopped by a group of strange creatures at the mountain gate of the Xianxin Hall. Looking around, these creatures all had strange appearances, including a few humans. There was a creature with the head of a lion and the body of a human. It had a snake tail and 5 sharp claws. Its eyes were like copper bells, emitting divine light. The other had a human head, but the body of a horse and the claws of a qilin. It looked very strange. Moreover, Jiang Chen also saw a true dragon and a vermilion bird. These two guys were definitely pure-blooded true dragon and vermilion bird. Such creatures, no matter where they were the top existences. However, in the 9 heavens divine world, pure-blooded true dragons and vermilion birds were very rare. Only in the territory of the Western Demon Clan, perhaps a few could still be seen. You are Jiang Chen? At this moment, the humanoid creature spoke. Its aura was extremely strong. Its black hair flowed with oil. When its eyes opened and closed, there seemed to be gods sitting cross-legged in the depths of its pupils, chanting scriptures. Title God, Jiang Chen said softly, then nodded and said, "Why are you looking for me?" "Naturally, to kill you." The person raised his eyebrows, and a cold light suddenly burst out from his eyes. When Jiang Chen heard that, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and his expression was rather strange. The group of creatures in front of him were all title gods, and Jiang Chen's side had master gods and peak divine kings. Now, these creatures actually wanted to kill him? Was there a mistake? You should understand the rules that everyone silently follows, right? The humanoid creature said, "We won't bully you. We come from beyond the heavens, and we are here to kill you under orders." The lion-headed creature said with a proud face. When facing a peak divine king like Princess Tianyong, he actually didn't have a trace of fear. "Don't worry, you are only a divine realm cultivator now. We can also suppress our cultivation to divine realm and have a fair fight with you," the creature with a human head and a horse's body said with a proud face, and his eyes were filled with a mysterious confidence. At this moment, Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed, and he was relieved. It turned out that this group of creatures came from beyond the heavens, the great thousand world. No wonder they dared to challenge him in front of him. "You are from beyond the heavens?" Before Jiang Chen could speak, Princess Tianyong frowned and asked, "You were the ones who destroyed the Tianyong Empire." "We came from beyond the heavens, and we're above everything." "What's the imperial court you're talking about?" "Umph, never heard of it." "However, so what if my outer heaven, great thousand world, destroys the dynasty you speak of?" These creatures were clamoring, full of confidence. It was all because they knew that there was an unspoken rule here, that they couldn't bully the weak. It was also because of this rule that they were so confident when facing Princess Tianyong. Boom! However, in the next moment, the group of people were dumbfounded, and then they were terrified. Princess Tianyong didn't say a single word. She pushed out her delicate hand, causing ripples to spread out. Wherever her palm passed, it was as if she had brushed away all the dust in the world. These creatures even turned into clouds of smoke and were directly dispersed. Their bodies and Tao disappeared, and not even a trace of ashes was left. "This, Aunt, you." Jiang Chen was in a mess, and for a moment, he didn't know how to explain. "Eldest nephew, you've told me that my enemies come from beyond the heavens," Princess Tianyong said seriously. "If I encounter creatures from beyond the heavens, I'll just kill them." "This?" Jiang Chen had a strange look on his face. In order to fool Princess Tianyong, he had given her a bunch of miscellaneous memories. Now he had caused trouble. "You've got guts. We came from the great thousand world, and we're heaven-grade titled deities. Each of us is a genius of a sect. How dare you attack us? You're courting death. Little girl, if you kneel down and apologize now, when the experts of the great thousand world descend in the future, your corpse will still be intact." Suddenly, the group of creatures that had been killed earlier appeared again. Upon closer inspection, a piece of talisman paper appeared on their bodies. It was covered with cryptic runes, and there were wisps of aura that surpassed the God-King level. A death substitute talisman made by an expert that surpassed the God-King level. Jiang Qin's eyes narrowed. This was a treasure. A piece of talisman paper was equivalent to having an extra life. However, Jiang Qin just smiled bitterly. He couldn't help but think to himself, are these creatures stupid? Since she dared to attack us once, she would dare to attack us twice. Jiang Qin said mockingly, instead of running away, you dare to make a ruckus here? You must be tired of living. What? How dare you attack us? The Red Lotus Venerable is watching from beyond the heavens. If you break this rule, when the experts of the Great Thousand World descend in the future, the burial ground will become a wasteland, and no creatures will survive. These creatures didn't retreat. Instead, they became even more arrogant. Moreover, when they mentioned the burial ground, their eyes flashed with disgust and contempt. Boom! However, before they could speak again, Princess Tianyong attacked again. This time, her delicate hand pressed down directly. Like a mountain carved out of white jade, she destroyed this group of creatures. Moreover, as if she was worried that this group of creatures would come back to life again, Princess Tianyong struck out more than 30 palms consecutively, causing the land within a radius of 100 miles to collapse and even turn into nothingness. I clearly feel that they are very weak. Why can't I kill them? Princess Tianyong looked puzzled. She saw that in the nothingness, these creatures had appeared again. Obviously, they had more than one death substitute talisman on them. This also confirmed what these creatures had said. They were considered top geniuses in the Great Thousand World. Otherwise, why would their sects give them these death substitute talismans? However, it was a pity that they met Princess Tianyong today. At this moment, Princess Tianyong seemed to be a little impatient, and a trace of irritation flashed in her eyes. Then she attacked again. Her hands formed a seal subconsciously, and she turned this place into a furnace. Then, flames danced in the furnace, and runes of the great Tao burned. Strands of rule fragments were rolling like charcoal in the furnace. Stop! Let me go! At this moment, these creatures were terrified. They finally understood that this gorgeous woman in front of them didn't play by the rules at all. This is too much. You answer the burial ground. Are you trying to break the rules? At the same time, Venerable Red Lotus and the others couldn't stand it anymore. They had never expected that a group of heaven-grade titled deities, who had just been transferred here, would be destroyed so easily. These creatures were really at the level of geniuses. Even the top forces in the Great Thousand World valued these creatures very much. After all, every deity who had a heaven-grade titled deity's future achievements were limitless. They were even qualified to inherit the position of the leader of the forces. Chapter 1000. The group of creatures in the outer world were furious, and their hearts were bleeding. They saw that the lion-headed creature was completely dead. The death substitution talisman had burned out, and his body had turned into ashes. He could no longer be resurrected. After a few breaths, the creature with a human head and a horse body also died with a miserable scream. Not even a wisp of ash was left. After another dozen breaths, only the human was still struggling among the group of creatures. This person can't be killed. Stop. You can't kill him. At this moment, Red Lotus Venerable was anxious. One had to know that this human youth had a powerful background. He was the successor of an ancient sect in the great wide world. That sect's foundation was extremely terrifying. Ordinary people could not imagine it at all. If they angered that sect, even Red Lotus Venerable would suffer. Watch if you want. Don't be noisy. Suddenly, a dignified voice rang out from an unknown place. At the same time, a palm print shot up like a meteor and bombarded the sky. Of course, this palm did not break the sky. After all, the southern wall was still there. However, this palm made Red Lotus Venerable and the others' expressions completely gloomy. Are you taking the initiative to start a war? How dare you provoke us? If we descend, all of you will die. Red Lotus Venerable and the others roared angrily. If it were not for the fact that they could not enter the ninth heaven divine realm, they would not be able to stand outside and watch. I have even flattened the sky. The voice sounded again. There was a hint of dominance in the dignified voice. If it weren't for the southern wall, you ants would have been flattened by me long ago. As soon as these words were spoken, Jiang Chun and the others instantly understood that the person who spoke was most likely from the Pingtian clan. The Pingtian clan's name came from the fact that they had once flattened the sky. During the 3 eras of Tsangmye, Huangmye, and Qingmye, the sky had died. The main reason was that the Pingtian clan had made a move. Now, Red Lotus Venerable and the Pingtian clan were clamoring. How could they be so arrogant? They had even killed the sky. So what if the creatures of the ninth heaven divine realm don't follow the rules? Do you think everyone is as obedient as Tianya? Not only did I not follow the rules today, but I also want to protect these people who don't follow the rules. If you are not convinced, come down now. Clearly, the expert from the Pingtian clan did not have a good temper. He constantly used the word daddy and did not play by the rules. However, when these words fell into Jiang Chen's ears, he felt comfortable no matter how he heard them. Although I'm a teacher of the Golden Age Academy, why do I feel like the Pingtian clan is very much to my liking? Jiang Chen murmured, "Fellow Taoist, this matter was negotiable. Don't hurt him." After a dozen breaths, Venerable Red Lotus and the others were completely terrified when they saw that the young human was about to die. Venerable Red Lotus spoke in person and lowered his stance. He was willing to negotiate with Jiang Chun and the others as long as they released the human youth. What's there to discuss? There was no room for discussion. Kill them all. However, before Jiang Chun could say anything, the expert from the Pingtian clan directly turned him down. Of course, there was no need for Jiang Chun to speak. The human youth could no longer hold on and finally turned into a wisp of ash. At this moment, angry roars could be heard from the sky, and lightning flashed. Venerable Red Lotus and the others were furious. They were shocked and furious. They knew that they had caused a huge disaster this time. He's a descendant of the Human Emperor's clan. Killing him is equivalent to offending the Human Emperor's clan in the boundless world. Venerable Red Lotus said coldly, "Wait for the Human Emperor's fury to descend." Human Emperor? He's nothing. He's fake. The expert from the Pingtian clan said bluntly, "In our eyes, there's only one true Human Emperor, and he's not in your boundless world." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, many people saw a palm strike out. Then, it turned into clouds that filled the sky. There were even runes and laws that appeared and enveloped the sky. This was a great divine ability, covering the sky with one hand. Clearly, the expert from the Pingtian clan had become ruthless. He covered the sky and did not let the beings in the outer world see the scene in the divine realm of the 9 firmaments. Human Emperor? At the same time, Jiang Chen's expression was somewhat absent-minded. It was because he thought of the Human Emperor on the godless continent. That was a mysterious expert who was as famous as Taoist Heavenspan. However, the Human Emperor and Taoist Heavenspan had never made a move, as if they had some scruples. Is the Human Emperor mentioned by the Pingtian clan the one from the godless continent? Jiang Chen muttered. As he spoke, Jiang Chen's expression suddenly changed, and he cried out, "I've suffered a huge loss." Then, Jiang Chen rushed over and rummaged through the void. Unfortunately, that group of beings had been refined until not even a speck of dust was left. They're all heaven-grade titled deities. Jiang Chen's heart was bleeding. Just now, Jiang Chen had forgotten about this matter. Otherwise, he would definitely have used the soul-capturing forbidden technique to obtain these heaven-grade titled deities. Now, he had suffered a huge loss. Auntie is so powerful. Yes. Not only is she beautiful, but she's also very strong. At this moment, the 3 virtuous deities were praising Princess Tianyong. Bird virtuous deity, in particular, had no bottom line. He plucked a vermilion bird's feather and made it into a fan, fanning Princess Tianyong. At the same time, Huang Dade's expression did not look right. He muttered, You want to compete with me for my love? Should I make a 9 netherworld phoenix robe for Annie? Smack! As soon as he said that, Jiang Qin's lips twitched, and he slapped Huang Dade on the head. You should know who your master is. Why didn't I see you making a 9 netherworld phoenix robe for me? Jiang Qin snapped. Io, look at what you're saying. Huang Dade said angrily. They say that women are like clothes. You already have so many beautiful female disciples. Isn't that enough for you to wear? When Jiang Qin heard that, he raised an eyebrow and did not want to say anything. These 3 virtuous deities had definitely been led astray by Mu Yud. The world's edge sealed the mountain, and the Pingtian clan did not follow the rules. Then, why should we follow the rules? All of a sudden, a figure shrouded in black fog appeared in the sky. He stood on a black cloud and was surrounded by runes. A dazzling godhead floated above his head like a black star. He walked towards Jiang Qin and the others and said loudly, as if he was talking to the Pingtian clan and the world's edge, "Oh no, let's go." At this moment, Jiang Qin's expression changed drastically. He said to the people around him, "It's the patriarch of the Dark God Palace. What are you afraid of?" "We have Annie, bird virtuous deity," said fearlessly. "This isn't the Dark Divine Palace's old ancestor. He's the Dark Divine Palace's old ancestor, the one behind the Dark Divine Palace," Jiang Qin hurried to explain. "This person's cultivation level is probably above Divine King." "Oh, is that so? Above the Godly King level?" Bird virtuous deity said softly. He seemed very calm, but his body was very honest. He tore open the void with his wings and was the first to flee. Chapter 1001. The annihilation of 2 forces under the command of the Radiant Master, God, naturally caused quite a bit of commotion. The Sovereign of Light could not come out of the Divine Light Palace, but he was unwilling to give up. The only way was to let the other sovereigns take action. The 36 peak sovereigns were like birds of a feather. If the Sovereign of Light asked the other sovereigns for help, the other sovereigns would definitely agree. Moreover, the Sovereign of Light had most likely told them that Jiang Qin had a peak Divine King by his side. Otherwise, the Dark God Palace would not have sent an expert above the Divine King level. At that moment, Jiang Qin could tell from the aura that the other party was from the Dark God Palace. Combined with what he had done in the past few days, he was sure that the other party was here for him. "Let's split up," Jiang Qin said in a low voice. "A cultivator above the Divine King level is enough to wipe us out." "Master, I'll go with you," Old One said. "This time, we can't leave you alone again. Hurry up and leave. It's not like we're parting forever," Jiang Qin said angrily. He patted Old One's shoulder and said, "I'll come find you when the time comes." Old One did not say anything else. He knew how terrifying someone above the Divine King level was. In the end, the few of them left one after another. Jiang Qin deliberately stayed in the same spot for a while to buy time for Old One and the rest. Of course, Princess Tianyong was with Jiang Qin. To Princess Tianyong, wherever Jiang Qin went, she would go. There was no reason for it. If she had to give a reason, she could only say that she had been tricked by Jiang Qin. "Tianqin, you're quite bold. You actually dared to stay." After a dozen breaths, the expert from the Dark God Palace arrived. His terrifying aura shook the heavens and the earth, and the void around him was constantly collapsing. He was surrounded by black fog, and a divine halo floated above his head. It was as if the entire universe was dancing with him. The Dark God Palace sure has some tricks up their sleeves. To think that they would send out an expert above the Divine King realm for a little heavenly god like me, Jiang Qin said softly. His expression was calm, and there was not a trace of fear in his eyes. "There's nothing I could do about it. Who asked you to be so famous?" That person laughed lightly. He seemed to be praising Jiang Qin, but his words were filled with disdain. To him, what was a godly king? If it weren't for the fact that Jiang Qin had been in a deep slumber all this while, and had only just awakened now, he wouldn't have needed 36 chief gods to take action at all in his previous life. He alone would have been enough. "I can give you a chance to pledge your loyalty to the Dark God Hall. If you do, I can spare your life and use the power of the Dark God Hall to nurture you," said the man. Upon hearing this, Jiang Chun sneered and asked, "Is there no one else in the Dark God Hall? You actually want to take me, your sworn enemy, as your disciple?" This old man just cherishes talent. The man's voice suddenly turned cold as he said, "Since you insist, I'll send you on your way today." After saying that, black fog erupted from the man's body like sharp black arrows. There were even runes and laws floating on them. As he waved his hand, sharp arrows filled the sky and filled this part of the world. Even the void was pierced. Sounds of tremors and explosions rang out continuously. From afar, this place seemed to be corroded by darkness. There wasn't a trace of light. "Old thing, you're still too inexperienced to kill me." Under the black arrows that filled the sky, Jiang Chun smiled mockingly. He was already prepared. He was proficient in formations. When he was talking to this person earlier, he secretly set up a teleportation formation. At this moment, Jiang Chun activated the formation and stepped into it with Princess Tianyong. In the blink of an eye, the two of them disappeared from this place. "Oh, I was too careless," the man said softly and mocked himself. As he said, if he hadn't been careless, even if Jiang Chun had set up a teleportation formation, he wouldn't have been able to escape from his hands. After all, the difference in cultivation between both parties was too great. Even so, this person was very calm. Black fog flickered in his eyes. When his eyes opened and closed, it was as if he had seen through everything. Following that, his figure disappeared on the spot like a black wind and escaped into the void. At the same time, 100,000 miles away from Dark Forest Hall, Jiang Chun and Princess Tianyong came out of the teleportation formation and flew towards Yongzhou. Jiang Chun thought very clearly. If he wanted to stop that person now, he had to borrow the power of the Tianyong Empire. However, before they could fly far, a black fog suddenly exploded beside Jiang Chun. "Go quickly, return to the Tianyong Empire, and get reinforcements." Jiang Chun pushed Princess Tianyong away and said seriously, "This time, you have to listen to me." "Oh." Princess Tianyong didn't have any objections. Seeing how serious Jiang Chun was, she naturally listened to him. After all, ever since she gained psychic powers, everything was taught by Jiang Chun. She listened to Jiang Chun very much. "Don't even think about leaving." Just as Princess Tianyong stepped into the void, a black palm print rushed over and hit Princess Tianyong's back. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Princess Tianyong's mouth. Even her physical body cracked and almost exploded. However, she didn't hesitate and was still as obedient as before. She escaped into the void and flew towards Yongzhou without looking back. At the same time, Jiang Chun escaped into the ground and used 3 strands of chaotic qi and the ever-changing heavenly lamp to hide his aura. The expert from the Dark Forest Hall frowned slightly. After observing for a while, he said mockingly, "You can't imagine how terrifying the power above the godly king realm is." Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Chun, who was hiding underground, froze. He felt that the soil around him was disintegrating and disappearing. In a short while, the land within 1,000 miles was refined and turned into nothingness. Luckily, Jiang Chun escaped in time and didn't reveal himself. However, cultivators above the godly king realm were extremely powerful and their consciousness was extremely sensitive. In a short while, this person sensed Jiang Chun's aura. Even with the 3 strands of chaotic qi and the ever-changing heavenly lamp protecting him, it was difficult to escape the detection of this person's consciousness. In a short while, Jiang Chun was suddenly hit by a terrifying force. His physical body exploded in an instant, and his soul and spirit were almost shattered. If the ever-changing heavenly lamp's bearer hadn't suddenly moved at the last moment, and an obscure force enveloped Jiang Chun's soul and spirit, Jiang Chun's soul would have been scattered. However, even if he didn't die, Jiang Chun was severely injured. After a short pause, Jiang Chun hurriedly rebuilt his physical body and escaped into the void. However, this time, before he could escape for 1,000 meters, he was swept out of the void by a gust of dark wind. Do you think you can escape? At this moment, the expert from the Dark Forest Hall appeared in front of Jiang Chun and said with contempt, "It's time for the game of cat and mouse to end." Is that so? Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows, and a trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. Then he chuckled and said, "See you in 10 days. Chapter 1002. See him in 10 days? What did that mean? The expert from the Dark God Hall was puzzled, but he did not hesitate to strike. He slammed his palm down like a black cloud. Forbidden technique, dissolution by arms. At that moment, Jiang Chun was very decisive. His physical body collapsed instantly, and even his divine spirit and soul turned into nothingness. In a short moment, Jiang Chun seemed to have evaporated into thin air. Not even a wisp of aura was left. How ruthless! The person was shocked. He did not expect Jiang Chun to use the dissolution by arms technique. The dissolution by arms technique was a forbidden technique. It was different from ordinary dissolution by arms techniques. Once this technique was used, Jiang Chun's physical body, divine spirit, soul, and even his entire being would turn into nothingness. However, after the dissolution by arms technique was used, a wisp of Jiang Chun's true spirit would be left behind. It would escape into an unknown place and leave a chance for survival. However, even if he survived, Jiang Chun's condition would be much worse than before. Everything in his body would be severely damaged. It was not certain if he could recover. In fact, if an accident happened and the wisp of true spirit dissipated, Jiang Chun would really die. See you in 10 days? Okay, I'll wait. After a few breaths, the person left. He did not look for Jiang Chun's wisp of true spirit. After all, this was the dissolution by arms technique. It was a forbidden technique that only people who had reached the end of the road would use. Under this forbidden technique, the wisp of true spirit that escaped was illusory. Even if one's cultivation surpassed the King of Gods, it would be difficult to find it. Moreover, the person was very sure that Jiang Chun would not die. This was because he believed in Jiang Chun's strength and ability. It was because he believed in Jiang Chun's strength and ability that the 36 lords tried their best to kill Jiang Chun. As a patriarch of the Dark God Hall, he did not hesitate to take action because he was afraid that Jiang Chun would grow stronger. Interesting. The world is in chaos. In the back mountain of the glittering Jewel Academy, a man shrouded in fog chuckled. This person was none other than the person who had previously rebuked the Red Lotus Venerable. He had been paying attention to Jiang Chun all this time. He had seen Jiang Chun being forced to surrender with his own eyes. However, he did not make a move because there was no need for him to do so, nor was there any obligation to do so. However, he was very curious. Under such circumstances, even if Jiang Chun came back to life, what could he do? The World's Edge had sealed the mountain, and the Linlang Academy had even said that they did not care about the rules. As such, Jiang Chun's enemies naturally had no scruples. In this way, all the enemies Jiang Chun had to face now had cultivations that far surpassed his own. If no one stood up for Jiang Chun's future path would be dangerous. Tian Xian, Tian Yuan, Tian Qing, Tian Song. Heh, you've reincarnated a few times, but you're still the same. The person said softly, I wonder what kind of tricks you'll play in this life. I'm really looking forward to it. At the same time in Glory World Academy, the gray-haired old man looked into the distance. Naturally, he was also paying attention to Jiang Chun. He had even seen Jiang Chun being forced to surrender. However, he did not make a move. The others on the World's Edge also did not make a move. It was only because the world was too chaotic now. Since the World's Edge had chosen to seal the mountain, it meant that they would not interfere with the affairs of the world for the time being. Then, if Jiang Chun encountered any danger during the period of time when the World's Edge was sealed, it would all depend on his own fortune. However, there was still a hint of anger in the gray-haired old man's eyes. After looking into the distance for a while, his expression became slightly gloomy. He said softly, the real chaotic world has descended. So, what if you're above the Divine King level? In the end, you're still ants and weeds. Time passed slowly. 10 days later, in a forest in Qian State, a wisp of divine light suddenly appeared here 10 days ago and landed on an ancient tree in the forest. During these 10 days, this wisp of divine light flickered continuously, absorbing the qi of heaven and earth. At the same time, there was also a light floating around it. And this wisp of divine light was the wisp of true soul that Jiang Chun had escaped. During these 10 days, Jiang Chen's weapon release was successful. At this moment, the divine light suddenly exploded, and his divine soul and spirit returned to their original position. After a few breaths, his physical body was reconstructed, and he recovered. However, the current Jiang Chen's face was pale, and he was very weak. His blood qi had dried up, his divine power had dried up, and even his divine soul and spirit were like that withered tree, without a single wisp of divine light. Not bad, I survived. Jiang Chen's heart still had lingering fear. If he did not know the forbidden art of weapon release, he was afraid that this time he would have really died. However, even if he survived, Jiang Chun felt that his condition was very bad. His foundation of Dao fruit was not damaged, but his blood qi and divine power had been severely damaged. This was injuring his origin source. I need to replenish my energy, Jiang Chun said softly. He sat cross-legged on the ground and adjusted his breathing, absorbing the qi of heaven and earth. It was not until 3 days later that he recovered a little. After that, he took out a small booklet. This was the list of enemies that the first brother had given him. Back then, the people and sects that had attacked Tenshin Shinzo were all recorded in this small booklet by the first brother. Dark God Palace. I haven't come looking for you, but you came looking for me first, Jiang Chun said in a low voice. After flipping through a few pages of the booklet, he quickly saw a series of sects under the Dark God Palace, as well as the names of those who had chased after Tenshin Shinzo. Qiyun Prefecture, the territory of the Fire God. After a few breaths, Jiang Chun closed the booklet, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. As far as he knew, the Fire God had always been a lone wolf, and he did not care about his own affairs. The Fire God Palace that he had established was in Qiyun Prefecture. Of course, the current Jiang Chun did not have the strength to cause trouble in the Fire God Palace. However, there were many affiliated sects under the Fire God Palace. Those sects rarely contacted the Fire God Palace. After all, the Fire God himself did not care about his own affairs, so who would go to the Fire God Palace for no reason? Over time, the sects and forces under the Fire God Palace had even less contact with the Fire God Palace. This was undoubtedly a good thing for Jiang Chun. After deliberating for a while, Jiang Chen's eyes flashed, and he said, Fire God, I can only come to you to collect some interest. Otherwise, I won't be able to make up for the loss of so much origin energy in a short time. After that, Jiang Chun left the forest, concealed his aura, and headed towards the north of Qiyun Prefecture. There was a sect affiliated with the Fire God Palace there. The sect master and the elders under him had also attacked Tenshin Shinzo's people back then. That sect was not very strong. There was no ancient divine king overseeing it, and the strongest person was only the sect master, a lower lord god. For the current Jiang Chun, a strong sect like this was undoubtedly a delicious cake that would be highly sought after. Just as Jiang Chun was quietly heading towards the north of Qiyun Prefecture, all the major forces in He Prefecture, which was close to Qiyun Prefecture, had received a decree telling them to be vigilant and guard against Jiang Chen's sneak attack. Obviously, the ancestor of the Dark God Palace was also somewhat afraid. He was worried that after Jiang Chen returned, he would attack the affiliated forces of the Dark God Palace. In fact, the ancestor of the Dark God Palace was still worried. He borrowed many experts from the nearby Fire God Palace and scattered them in He Prefecture, guarding various places, waiting for Jiang Chun to take revenge. Chapter 1003. Black Province's forces were on high alert and had even borrowed many powerhouses from the Fire God Temple to guard the area. waiting for Jiang Chun to come knocking on their door. However, they never would have thought that a wisp of Jiang Chen's true soul had been transported to Qiyin Prefecture, and now he was preparing to attack the Fire God Temple's subsidiary forces. Half a day later, in the northern part of Qiyin Prefecture, near Liyun Sect. After Jiang Chen arrived, he did not attack right away. Instead, he concealed his aura and secretly set up a formation. After all, with his current strength and condition, if he barged into Liyun Sect, there would only be one outcome, death. However, a formation was different. As long as the formation was strong enough, it could go against the weak. Even a godly king would die if they came. Of course, Jiang Chun did not have enough materials on hand, so the formation he set up could barely deal with upper-rank lords. However, that was enough. After all, the strongest person in Liyun Sect was only a lower-rank lord. Once Jiang Chen's formation was successfully set up, what would a lower-rank lord be worth? 3 days later, 13 days had passed since Jiang Chen's dissolution. The Dark God Temple's patriarch was very puzzled these few days. Logically speaking, Jiang Chun should have come by now. However, there was no movement in Black Province during these 3 days. They did not even detect Jiang Chen's aura. This made him very puzzled. Could it be that the reincarnated Jiang Chen's personality and temper had changed? Oh no, something big has happened. At that moment, the Dark God Temple received news that Liyun Sect in the northern part of Qiyin Prefecture had been destroyed. Moreover, it had been destroyed 2 days ago. Why did we only receive news 2 days after such a huge sect was destroyed? The Dark God Temple's patriarch was shocked and furious. His brows were tightly knitted as he tried to guess who did it. At the same time, the group of Fire God Temple's powerhouses who came to Black Province to oversee the situation were all furious when they heard the news. They all rushed back to Qiyin Prefecture to search for Jiang Chun. However, the Scorching Cloud sect had been destroyed 2 days ago. During these 2 days, Jiang Chun had not only looted the treasures of the Scorching Cloud sect, but he had also recuperated for a day and recovered a great deal. Furthermore, Jiang Chun was no longer in the Qiyin Prefecture. Instead, he had entered the Black Prefecture. Jiang Chun was not stupid. With such a huge sect being destroyed, the Fire Divine Palace must have sent out a large number of people and almost overturned the Scarlet Cloud Prefecture. If he continued to stay in the Qiyin Prefecture, only death awaited him. I'll slowly play with you guys. On this day, Jiang Chun came to the western part of the Black Province and set his eyes on a subordinate force of the Dark God Hall. Just like before, Jiang Chun secretly set up a formation, using the myriad transformations, Heavenly Lamp, and Chaotic Chi to conceal his aura. Just like that, 3 days later, the Dark God Palace received news that one of their subordinate forces had been destroyed right under their noses. Furthermore, it was destroyed 2 days ago. Who did it? To destroy a sect without anyone knowing. I'm afraid even a divine king can't do it. At this moment, the Fire Divine Palace and the Dark God Palace were both suspicious. Was there an expert who surpassed the divine king targeting them? Of course, they had also thought that it was Jiang Chun who did it. However, they did not think that a heavenly god realm cultivator who had just been dismembered would have such ability. Inform all the upper echelons of our Dark God Palace's subordinate forces, as well as the genius disciples, to come to the Dark God Palace. The Dark God Palace's ancestor immediately ordered. He was not sure who was doing it. He thought that it was an expert who surpassed the divine king level targeting them. Therefore, he was a little afraid. Now, he could only abandon the rook to protect the general. He would first protect the sex experts and those geniuses. As for the others, he could not be bothered with them. After all, this was how the world worked. Ordinary people would eventually be abandoned by others and not be valued. At this moment, Jiang Chun did not leave the Black Province. Instead, he went to the other subordinate forces of the Dark God Palace to take a look. No one? No one here either? Half a day later, Jiang Chun went to 3 forces consecutively and found that the experts in these forces had all disappeared. Those who stayed behind did not have high cultivation levels either. Of course, these were not important to Jiang Chun. The important thing was that he had sneaked into these forces' treasure vaults and found that they were empty. This made Jiang Chen very uncomfortable. If they had left, then so be it. Why did they have to take away their own belongings? One had to know that what Jiang Chen needed the most now was supplements. As for the remaining disciples, what was the use of Jiang Chen killing them? These people had not participated in the pursuit of Tenshin Shinzo back then. Those who had participated in it had all run away now. Have they all gone to hide in the Dark God Palace? Jiang Chen said softly. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a sinister smile. After that, he secretly set up a formation near these forces. As long as a divine king returned to the forces, these formations would be activated. I don't believe that you won't come back for the rest of your lives. If you dare to come back, you'll all die, Jiang Chen said with a chuckle. In the end, Jiang Chen strolled around the Black Province. After setting up formations in the 6 forces, he left quietly. At the same time, some of the upper echelons of the Fire God Palace and the Dark God Palace were secretly contacting each other to discuss who had taken action this time. Some even suspected that it was the Glittering Jewel Academy who had secretly taken action. Of course, when they went to the Glittering Jewel Academy to seek confirmation, they were directly chased out. However, the Glittering Jewel Academy also said that this matter had nothing to do with them. Who did it? An upper-ranked chief god of the Fire God Palace frowned and said, quietly exterminating one of the forces under the Fire God Palace. It's absolutely impossible if one's cultivation level is not higher than a god king. Just as everyone was puzzled in the Qian province or the north, Jiang Chen was back again. After returning, Jiang Chen opened the little notebook and soon found his next target. Just like before, Jiang Chen secretly set up formations again and killed the group of experts in the force. After looting the treasury, he left suavely. However, the Fire God Palace was obviously on guard this time. A group of experts patrolled the Qian province and discovered this on the same day. But this time, they found a clue. He used formations to destroy the entire sect. It was done by the same person. On this day, the Fire God Palace's upper echelons had ugly expressions because the Inferno Chief God had personally taken action. He went to the destroyed force. When he saw the traces of the formations, his face darkened. A bunch of trash. Who else could have done something like this apart from Tianqin back then? Have you all forgotten? He's proficient in all fields, and his attainments and formations are even hailed as the #1 in this era. The Inferno Chief God rebuked angrily and went to the destroyed force again. After a round of investigation, his face became even gloomier. Are you all blind? You didn't even see such a huge formation trace. The Inferno Chief God was furious. We didn't think of that, someone explained. One must know that after Jiang Chen used formations to destroy a force, he would erase the formation traces. It was precisely because of this that these people suspected that a powerhouse surpassing the God King level had taken action. If they knew that these forces were destroyed by formations, they would definitely think of Jiang Chen. Unfortunately, it was too late to think of it now. Sir, the formation traces here seem to have formed a line of words. Suddenly, someone discovered something and exclaimed. Chapter 1004. After the formation was destroyed, traces were left behind. Upon closer inspection, these traces formed a line of words. When the Inferno Master God heard that, he took a closer look, and his face turned green the next moment. Raid your hometown. Looking at these words, how could the Inferno Master God still have the mood to stay here? He dove into the void and rushed toward his own Fire God Temple. However, when he arrived at the Fire God Temple, he discovered that there was nothing unusual here, and he could not detect a trace of Jiang Chen's aura. This made him very puzzled. Could it be that Jiang Chen left behind those words to mess with him? Impossible. I know him too well. There's definitely something wrong with this. The Inferno Master God said in a low voice. After thinking about it carefully, a hint of mockery flashed across his eyes. Back then, Jiang Chen was the godly king who ruled over the 9 heavens divine world. The 36 master gods had a deep relationship with him, and it could even be said that they knew each other well. Usually, they would communicate with each other. As time went by, everyone got to know what kind of person Jiangchen was. Now, the Inferno Master God was certain that Jiangchen had definitely gone to raid his hometown. However, this hometown was not raiding the Fire God Temple. In that case, if it was not the Fire God Temple, which faction could it be? Even with his eyes closed, the Inferno Master God could think of only one place that was close to Qian Prefecture and had a grudge with Jiangchen, Black Prefecture. Sure. The Inferno Master God smiled mockingly and even ordered that those words were not to be spread out. At the same time, he actually sent someone to the Dark God Temple to inform their upper echelons that they had discovered Jiangchen's tracks in Qian Prefecture. After doing all that, the Inferno Master God disappeared like a wisp of smoke. If the upper echelons of the Dark God Temple were to find out about this, their faces would probably turn green from anger. After all, the Inferno Master God was scamming the Dark God Temple. However, thinking about it carefully, this was also very normal. Although the 36 Master Gods were of the same breath and branch, none of them usually gave in to each other and would even come to blows. In fact, these 36 Master Gods even understood that if not for the fact that their strength was about the same and they kept each other in check, they would have fought long ago. Open strife and veiled strife were all too normal for these 36 people. But now, since the Inferno Master God had already guessed that Jiangchen was going to scam the Dark God Palace, he was naturally overjoyed. In fact, he was even secretly helping Jiangchen out. But of course, the Inferno Master God's heart was as clear as a mirror. He was certain that Jiangchen had already predicted that he would do this. Tianchen, I'll give you a chance to F*CK over the Dark God Palace. If you don't F*CK them over badly enough, don't blame me for what happens next. The Inferno Master God was hiding in a void somewhere as his face was filled with mockery while his eyes were filled with anticipation. On this day, a group of powerhouses from the Dark God Palace, including the Old Ancestor, came to the Qian Prefecture. They began to wantonly search for Jiangchen's tracks, almost turning the entire Qian Prefecture upside down. However, for 3 consecutive days, the group of overgods and even the ancestors above God Kings failed to find any trace of Jiangchen. Could it be that Jiangchen had already left the Qian Prefecture? Inferno, you said that you found Jiangchen's tracks in the Qian Prefecture. Where is he? Why can't we find him? There are so many of us overgods and an old ancestor from the Dark God Palace. Even if it were a God King, he would still be found by us. Now, how can a mere heavenly deity realm and escape our eyes? The group of powerhouses from the Dark God Palace were extremely puzzled. They even sought out the Inferno Master God in the void and questioned him face to face. The Inferno Master God was extremely calm as he chuckled out. A few days ago, we did indeed find traces of him in the Qian Prefecture. But how can you blame me for not being able to find him? Perhaps he has already left. As he said that, the Inferno Master God waved his hand in a seemingly indifferent manner. Forget it, forget it. Now that he has reincarnated, his cultivation state is no longer the same as before. What's there to be afraid of? That man must die. He's a disaster if he's left alive. The old ancestor from the Dark God Palace said in a deep voice. Light shone from his body as darkness gradually covered the entire Qian Prefecture like a cloud. He had an ominous feeling in his heart. It seemed like something big was about to happen. Therefore, he desperately wanted to find Jiangchen and kill him for good. However, right at that moment, a divine consciousness was transmitted into his mind. That was the voice of a master god from the Dark God Palace. At that moment, it was transmitted from 1,000 miles away. His voice was filled with urgency, panic, and even fury. The Dark God Palace's outer treasury has been ransacked. That short sentence caused the old ancestor from the Dark God Palace to turn pale with fright. He did not say anything else. Instead, he tore through the void and sprinted toward the Dark God Palace in the Black Prefecture. However, by the time he arrived at the Dark God Palace, it was already too late. Looking around, the Dark God Palace was still the same as before. There were no changes at all, and it looked very safe. However, upon closer inspection, the air was filled with wisps of cryptic runic aura. Furthermore, beneath the ground of the Dark God Palace, there were even formation runes that had yet to fade and were still flashing. These formation runes were connected and turned into a teleportation formation. Its purpose was to reach the Dark God Palace's outer treasury. Old Ancestor, the outer treasury has been ransacked. Everything inside is gone. A Heaven-class tidal power has been stolen. There are still 6 Earth-class tidal powers left, and the 9 transformation Heavenly Dew has also been stolen. At that moment, the group of Dark God Palace's elites were pale. They had a heavy responsibility for the theft of the treasury. Give the order. Kill Tian Chun at all costs. The old ancestor from the Dark God Palace roared angrily. He had long sensed that the runes and formation runes left behind here carried Jiang Chen's aura. This time, he was completely enraged. The theft of a Heaven-class tidal power was already considered a big deal. It should be known that that item was left for the only son of the Dark God Palace's master. A Heaven-class tidal power can be exchanged with other forces for a little price. But that 9 transformation Heavenly Dew, someone said in a low voice. At the mention of the 9 transformation Heavenly Dew, his entire body trembled. That was prepared for you to pass the tribulation, someone said in a trembling voice. When the old ancestor from the Dark God Palace heard this, his chest heaved up and down. He almost fainted. One should know that his cultivation was above a godly king. He was just one step away from becoming a godly emperor. And this 9 transformation Heavenly Dew was used to pass the godly emperor Heavenly Tribulation. But now it had been stolen. The godly emperor Heavenly Tribulation was so terrifying that very few people had been able to pass it since ancient times. The old ancestor from the Dark God Palace had prepared for several eras before obtaining the 9 transformation Heavenly Dew. He had thought that he could use this item to pass the tribulation and enter the godly emperor realm during the Golden Age. Who would have thought that? Mobilize everyone. Go and find him. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. The old ancestor from the Dark God Palace roared. I, the Dark Mystic King, swear that if I don't kill Tian Chun, I won't become a godly emperor. Chapter 1005. The Dark Mystic Lord was enraged. Even his tribulation transcendence item had been stolen. His chances of becoming an emperor god were slim. He was filled with hatred. If he had known that Jiang Chun was so daring to steal from the Dark God Palace's treasury, he would have brought the 9-turn Heavenly Dew with him. Oh, not bad. You stole the 9-turn Heavenly Dew. Huh? At the same time, the Flame Master God also received the news and could not stop laughing. But soon, his face turned serious. Because Jiang Chun was so daring to steal from the Dark God Palace, he would naturally dare to steal from the Fire God Palace as well. At that moment, the Flame Master God was very decisive. He kept all the treasures in the Fire God Palace into his soul for safekeeping. Tian Chun, I'm different from the other masters. I just need to take care of myself, the Flame Master God said with a smile. In the next few days, the Dark God Palace went completely crazy. All the experts took action and headed to various states to search for Jiang Chen's whereabouts. Even the Dark Mystic Lord took action personally. He did not hesitate to expend a large amount of divine power to travel the world in order to find Jiang Chun and take back the 9-turn Heavenly Dew. And when the Dark God Palace was making a big fuss, where was Jiang Chun? He was still in the Black State, and he was still in the Dark God Palace. Jiang Chun had calculated the thoughts of these people accurately. After knowing that the 9-turn Heavenly Dew had been stolen, the Dark God Palace would definitely not sit still. After all, it was related to whether the Dark God Palace could have another Emperor God. Just like that, Jiang Chun hid in the Dark God Palace, relying on the myriad transformations Heavenly Lamp and the 3 wisps of chaotic aura to hide in the dark. Until 5 days later, When he was sure that all the experts in the Dark God Palace had taken action, he took action again. This time, he placed the formation stones that he had prepared in advance in the Dark God Palace's treasury. Using the star-shifting technique, he transferred all the treasures out. After that, he didn't even bother to destroy the array formation before he left the place. 3 days later, an expert returned. When he discovered that the treasury of the Dark God Palace had been completely looted, he spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. His vision went dark, and he fainted just like that. Half a day later, the Dark Mystic King learned of this matter. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling, and blood was spurting out from his 7 orifices. He stared at the void in front of him as if he wanted to see through the illusion and find Jiang Chun. However, under the protection of the myriad transformations, heavenly lamp, and the 3 strands of chaotic qi, as long as Jiang Chun did not make a move, not many people in this world could find him. Place a bounty. In the end, the Dark God Palace was forced into a corner. They contacted the major assassin organizations of the Ninth Heaven Divine World and paid a huge price to place a bounty on Jiang Chun. Among them was Extinction Shadow Sect. The Absolute Shadow Sect was notorious in the Ninth Heaven Divine Realm, specializing in assassinations. However, this time, although the Ultimate Shadow Sect accepted the assassination, they did not take action. The Extinction Shadow Sect even used their own intelligence network and some techniques to locate Jiang Chun. You're in big trouble. 3 days later, in a canyon in Heizhou, the young master of the Extinction Shadow Sect relied on the intelligence and the divine ability of the Extinction Shadow Sect to find Jiang Chun. As soon as they met, Lu Ying directly threw a thick stack of silk books at Jiang Chun's face and said snappily, "Look at what these are. More than 30 assassin organizations and more than 60 intelligence organizations in the Ninth Heaven Divine World have all placed a bounty on you. Now, there is no place for you in the Ninth Heaven Divine World. You will be found sooner or later." When Jiang Chun saw Lu Ying, he was stunned for a moment, wondering how Lu Ying found him. But soon he did not care about this matter. He picked up the stack of silk books. On them were the bounty orders that the major assassin organizations and intelligence organizations had placed on him. Among them, the one with the highest bounty was actually a heavenly tidal power. "That's not right." Jiang Chun looked at it carefully for a while, then said with a strange expression, "Where does the Dark God Palace get the money to place so many bounties?" "What do you mean?" Lu Ying was stunned and confused. "Their treasury has been cleaned out by me. Where does the Dark God Palace get the money to pay the bounty?" Jiang Chun said, and then waved his hand. The treasures that he stole from the Dark God Palace appeared in front of Lu Ying. At this moment, Lu Ying was dumbfounded. In front of him, there were 3 treasures that were as tall as a small mountain. They were piled up together, and divine light shot into the sky. Among them, there was no lack of rare treasures. For example, rare immortal gold that was used to refine Tao attainment items, unknown divine stones, and even half of the Dark God Palace's cultivation technique. No wonder the Dark God Palace issued so many bounty orders. It turns out that you have done such a thing that angered both men and gods. Lu Ying's expression was strange, and his eyes were shining. He said, "So many treasures. Can you use them all by yourself?" "I can't use them all," Jiang Chun said directly. "Some things are not needed. I have to sell them and exchange them for other things." "What do you lack? Let's see what I have to exchange with you." Lu Ying narrowed his eyes and stared at the heaven-level tidal power. One must know that Lu Ying had been a tidal god for a long time, but his tidal power was only at the spiritual level. Now he had an idea. If he could get the heaven-level tidal power, he would rather recultivate to the tidal god realm. However, would Jiang Chun agree? "What relationship do I have with you? If you want a heaven-level tidal power, take it." Jiang Chun was very generous, as if he did not care about the heaven-level tidal power at all. This made Lu Ying a little confused. He stared at Jiang Chun with a strange expression and asked, "The things that you stole from the Dark God Palace are not just these, right? There are too many. How can I take them all out?" Jiang Chun said jokingly, The external treasury of the Dark God Palace only has one heaven-level tidal power, but the internal treasury as he spoke, Jiang Chun stretched out 6 fingers. 6? Lu Ying exclaimed. The significance of these 6 heaven-level tidal powers was extraordinary. If they were obtained by a certain force, it meant that they could create 6 heaven-level tidal gods. If they were nurtured well, these 6 heaven-level tidal gods would become 6 heaven-level main gods, or even heaven-level divine kings, or even heaven-level divine emperors. Spread the news that I have emptied the Dark God Palace. Tell those assassin organizations and intelligence organizations. Jiang Chen chuckled and said, I want to see if they will still be willing to kill me for the Dark God Palace after knowing that they have no money. This they probably won't. Lu Ying said, assassin organizations and intelligence organizations all work for money. If they don't have money, how can they work for you? Then it's fine. Jiang Chen smiled and said, and I have money now. As he spoke, Jiang Chen directly sent the 3 piles of treasures in front of Lu Ying and said, use these to place a bounty. I want the life of the Dark God Palace's Dark Mystic King. Dark Mystic King? That is an existence that surpasses the divine kings. According to what I know, the Dark Mystic King broke through to the Supreme God level a long time ago. He is only 1 step away from becoming a divine emperor, Lu Ying exclaimed. Assassinating a supreme god, this was too difficult. Chapter 1006. Above the divine king was the supreme god. Since ancient times, there had been many supreme gods, but not many had shown themselves to the world. That was because any cultivator who could step into the supreme god realm could become an emperor god. Therefore, most of the time, supreme gods would not show themselves. They would cultivate in seclusion, hoping to take the most crucial step and become an emperor god. However, this era was a little special. A bright golden age was about to descend, and there were as many opportunities as the stars in the sky. Even an ultimate god would want to seize an opportunity to become an emperor god in the golden age. Therefore, it was not surprising that there were a few supreme gods in this era. However, it was a little too much to want to kill a supreme god. At least to Lu Ying, Jiang Chen's request was too much. How could an ultimate god be killed so easily? Which one of the assassin organizations and intelligence organizations in the 9th heaven divine world isn't a good person? Jiang Chen joked. I don't believe that there isn't a supreme god in so many assassin organizations and intelligence organizations. There are few, Lu Ying muttered. One of the supreme elders of Zhuang's sect was a supreme god. However, such people would not easily take action. They were the trump cards of a force. Such an existence was the key to protecting the force. How could they take action for a little reward? Moreover, the person who wanted the reward this time was not an ordinary person, but the Dark God Palace's Dark Xian King. This person had been famous for a long time. He was extremely powerful and was half a step into the Emperor God realm. An ordinary ultimate god would most likely not be a match for such a person and might even be killed. Money makes the world go round. Jiang Chen said, help me spread the news. This time, the reward for the Dark Xian King is a bottle of 9-turn heavenly dew. What? 9-turn heavenly dew? Lu Ying exclaimed. That was something. 9-turn heavenly dew was a heaven-defying treasure that cultivators stole from the heavenly Tao and condensed over time. This item was useless to ordinary people, but to supreme gods, especially those who had a chance to break through to the Emperor God realm, this item was the key to the Emperor God realm. With the 9 revolutions heavenly dew, there was no need to worry about the God Emperor heavenly tribulation at all. He could safely pass through it. This thing was also stolen from the Dark Divine Hall? Lu Ying asked. I reckon that the Dark Profound King prepared it for himself. He also didn't expect that I would rob the Dark Divine Palace's treasury. Jiang Chen laughed. How is it? Is this 9 turns heavenly dew enough? When Lu Ying heard this, she did not immediately agree. After all, this was a matter of great importance. Even an ultimate god would have to consider it carefully. If you trust me, Then give me the 9 revolutions heavenly due. I'll make the arrangements, Luing said. After all, the reward has to be paid first. Of course, Jiangchen said with a smile, since the young master of the ultimate shadow sect has said so. How can I not be at ease? Finished talking. Under Lu Ying's stupefied face, Jiangchen actually really handed the 9 revolutions heavenly due to him. Aren't you afraid that I'll run away with the 9 transformations heavenly due? Luing asked. What's there to be afraid of? It's just a bottle of 9 revolutions heavenly due, Jiangchen said. Moreover, you're not that kind of person. One must know that if the ultimate shadow sect wanted to make a move on Jiangchen, it would not be Luing who came here at this moment, but the group of assassins. Thinking about it, the ultimate shadow sect should want to help Jiangchen. Moreover, as far as Jiangchen knew, there was some enmity between the ultimate shadow sect and the Dark Divine Hall. Now that the reward for the Dark Profound King was paid by Jiangchen, how could the ultimate shadow sect not agree? Don't worry, leave this to me. In the end, Luing left and told Jiangchen to see him in He province in 10 days. Jiangchen did not say much. After setting up a formation around him and hiding his aura, he began to cultivate. He had obtained many treasures from the Dark Divine Hall. There were countless elixirs and treasures. With these things, not only could Jiangchen recover, but his cultivation would also improve greatly. Just like that, Jiangchen hid in He province and cultivated quietly. Time also slowly passed by until 3 days later. On this day, Jiangchen woke up from his cultivation. A mysterious light flashed in his eyes, as if it was the brightest light in the world. He stretched his body, and the blood chi in his body surged. His divine soul and spirit were even more dazzling. The divine light was like a river that covered his entire body, rolling and moving. The injuries caused by the martial release had already healed. Even his cultivation had broken through to the upper heavenly god realm. And what made Jiangchen the most excited was that in these 3 days, he had consumed a large amount of treasures and shed more than 500 spiritual bodies. At the same time, he discovered a shocking change on his ribs. Originally, there were rune flowers that looked like roses growing on his ribs. Now, these flowers had merged into one and turned into an extremely dazzling rose. The rose bloomed in Jiangchen's chest. In the heart of the flower, there seemed to be a god sitting cross-legged. His appearance could not be seen clearly, but he could hear the obscure chanting of scriptures. His body shook, and the god in the heart of the flower suddenly opened his eyes. A powerful force erupted, sweeping through his limbs and bones. Jiangchen was startled, and when he detected such a power, he made a rough estimation. With his current power, he could probably easily suppress a low-level venerable god. In fact, he would even be able to put up a fight against an intermediate god. Spiritual body transformation, rose fusion. Jiangchen was delighted. He kept the spiritual bodies in his soul world. Then he got up, tidied himself up, and looked into the distance. Today was the day he had agreed to meet Luing. Jiangchen knew that the ultimate shadow sect had a special ability that could find him. Therefore, he waited here for Lu Ying's arrival. However, until nighttime, he did not see Lu Ying's figure. This made Jiangchen somewhat puzzled. He wondered if something had happened to Luing. Of course, Jiangchen would never think that Luing would betray him, let alone run away with the 9 transformation heavenly due. After all, Jiangchen was quite accurate in reading people. Could it be that there's a problem in the ultimate shadow sect? Jiangchen wondered. Should he make a trip to the ultimate shadow sect to take a look? However, not many people in this world knew about the mountain gate of the ultimate shadow sect. Even if he wanted to go, he could not find it. Boom! Just as Jiangchen was puzzled, a series of explosions suddenly came from the distance. Looking up, tens of thousands of miles away from Jiangchen in the sky, the void there exploded. A terrifying void storm swept through everything. The light of the great Tao floated in the void, as if ripples were spreading. That side of the world was changing color. Taking a closer look, there were many figures in the light of the great Tao. There were actually people fighting. Who are you? I am the dark mystic king. After a dozen breaths, an angry roar sounded, shaking the entire Black Province. At this moment, Jiang Chun stared at the sky and saw that the dark mystic king was injured. The top of his head was torn open, one of his arms was chopped off, and even his chest was pierced. Chapter 1007. An ultimate god of a generation was actually beaten to such a state in his own territory? At this moment, Jiang Chun smiled. He knew that this was the work of those assassin organizations and intelligence organizations. It seemed that the bottle of 9 turns heavenly dew was still very useful. I am the Dark Mystic King, one of the ancestors of the Dark God Palace. Aren't you afraid of my Dark God Palace's anger? At this moment, the Dark Mystic King roared. His body was on the verge of collapse, and even his divine soul was trembling. His soul was flickering, as if it would extinguish at any moment. However, the people around him remained silent. All of them had changed their auras, making it impossible for others to see through their true identities. Moreover, these people attacked again. Each of their methods were heaven-defying, and the aura they emitted was actually at the ultimate god level. The waters of the ninth heaven divine world are still deep. Jiang Chen sighed. Under normal circumstances, even divine kings were rarely seen in this world. The divine kings that could be seen now were basically ancient divine kings that had survived a few eras. As for ultimate gods, that was even more rare. But now, for the 9 turns heavenly dew, so many ultimate gods had appeared all of a sudden. This made Jiang Chen somewhat depressed, and he lamented that his vision was indeed shallow in the past. Boom! Following that, the battle in the sky became more and more intense. The Dark Mystic King was extremely strong, and he actually had the strength to fight against a few ultimate gods. However, as time passed, this old fellow couldn't hold on any longer. His body collapsed, his divine soul and soul dimmed, and his life aura became weaker and weaker. In the end, the Dark Mystic King couldn't hold on any longer. He burned his blood essence, tore through the void, and escaped back into the Dark God Palace. Jiang Chen saw all of this and couldn't help but sigh. In the end, he couldn't kill the Dark Mystic King. However, thinking about it carefully, it was normal. After all, as an ultimate god, he controlled the power of heaven and earth. How could he be killed so easily? Unless one had an absolute advantage in strength, it was too difficult to kill an ultimate god. Moreover, the location of this group of assassins was in the Black Province, the hometown of the Dark Mystic King. This fellow had escaped back into the Dark God Palace, so this group of assassins couldn't continue to chase after him. After all, the Dark God Palace's foundation was very deep, and there might be more ultimate god-level experts than the Dark Mystic King. The consequences of rashly chasing after him. The moment I step into the God Emperor realm, I will definitely get rid of all of you. After the Dark Profound King returned to the Dark God Palace, he angrily roared to the heavens, threatening to exterminate these assassin organizations. However, these assassins still didn't say anything. They directly escaped into the darkness and disappeared. You saw it? Not long after, Luing arrived. His expression was somewhat unsightly, and he felt rather awkward. That was because the Dark Mystic King was still alive, inviting so many supreme gods at once. Luing frowned and said, "Even if we didn't kill the Dark Profound King, we still have to give away that bottle of 9 turn heavenly dew. Otherwise, I understand." Jiang Chen nodded and said, "It's fine, just give it to them. But don't worry, as long as Dark Profound King is not dead, as long as there is a chance, those supreme gods will still take action." Luing said with a stern expression, "Assassin organizations are like this. They take people's money and help them eliminate disasters. I won't stop until I'm dead." Looking at the Dark Profound King's injuries, he probably won't dare to come out and cause trouble during this period of time, Jiang Chen joked. Without the Dark Profound King, the remaining people in the Dark God Palace are easy to deal with. Luing had a strange expression when she heard that. She asked tentatively. Don't tell me you're still thinking of finding trouble with the Dark God Palace? Although the Dark Profound King was seriously injured and needed a long period of seclusion to heal his injuries. However, the Dark Profound King wasn't the only expert in the Dark God Palace. Furthermore, according to Ultimate Shadow Sect's intelligence, there was another supreme god in the Dark God Palace. Other than this supreme god, the Dark God Palace also had many master gods and 2 ancient god kings. Lu Ying couldn't understand. With Jiang Qin's current strength, what right did he have to find trouble with the Dark God Palace? It was already good enough that they didn't find trouble with him now. Who told you that I'm going to find the Dark God Palace? Jiang Qin joked. Among the 36 master gods that ambushed me back then, it wasn't just the Light Palace and the Dark God Palace. You mean you're going to attack the forces of the other master gods? Lu Ying's expression froze, and she advised, calm down. Now that you've messed with the Dark God Palace, the other master gods are already on guard. If you go now, they might be prepared. If you go, you'll be walking right into their trap. Of course, Jiang Qin understood this, but so what? Jiang Qin knew that if he were to fight head-on, he definitely wouldn't be able to do it with his current strength. However, the key point was, why did he have to fight head-on? Just like when the 36 master gods tried to kill him back then, didn't they attack him secretly and ambush him? I'm proficient in formations, runes, restrictions, boundaries. Jiang Qin looked at Lu Ying with a faint smile and asked, if I were to attack secretly, how many people do you think can stop me? Lu Ying was stunned when she heard that. She looked at Jiang Qin's smile and shuddered as though she had noticed something. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to drag my Ultimate Shadow Sect down with you? Lu Ying said in a low voice. What do you mean by dragging you down with me? I'm helping Ultimate Shadow Sect make a fortune. Jiang Qin said seriously. You provide the information, and I'm in charge of attacking. When the time comes, I'll split the profits with Ultimate Shadow Sect. Oh, there's such a good deal? Lu Ying raised her eyebrows. She wouldn't believe Jiang Qin so easily. The premise is, Ultimate Shadow Sect has to protect me secretly, Jiang Qin said. Lu Ying knew that this wasn't so simple, but it wasn't complicated either. As long as Ultimate Shadow Sect could ensure Jiang Qin's safety, this deal could be done. After what you've done to Black Province and Qian Province, I'm afraid we can't do it anymore. Lu Ying analyzed. Which master god is your next target? When she said that, Jiang Qin looked at Lu Ying strangely and asked, did I tell you that I'm not going to continue looking for the Dark God Palace? Ah? Lu Ying was stunned, and her eyes almost popped out. Brother, please stop messing around. You've just looted the Dark God Palace and placed a bounty to heavily injure the Dark Mystic King. Now you want to mess with the Dark God Palace. Aren't you looking for death? Now, when the people of the Dark God Palace see you, they can't wait to eat you alive. They all thought that I would leave this place and avoid the Dark God Palace. Jiang Qin joked, but that's what they thought. If I were to go against what they thought, which faction do you think would be the best to do it now? This is the Dark Divine Palace? Lu Ying was shocked. She gave it a second thought and found Jiang Qin was right. But you've already looted the Dark God Palace's inner and outer treasure vaults. What good things can there be inside? Lu Ying asked doubtfully. The Dark God Palace, one of the top factions, if they only have these 2 treasure vaults, isn't it too shabby? Jiang Qin muttered, do you think Dark God Palace has other treasure vaults? Moreover, they all saw the previous battle. The Dark Mystic King's injuries weren't light, his life aura declining, almost dying. Without 300 to 500 years, it would be difficult to recover from this injury. Everyone, don't worry. Our Dark God Hall has a deep foundation and many healing medicines. The Qian King Patriarch's injuries will be healed very soon. In the end, the current Hall Master of the Dark God Palace stood out with a calm expression. Hall Master, the 2 treasuries of the Dark God Palace have been emptied. Someone muttered, how can there be any healing medicines left? Not to mention healing medicines, even the cultivation resources for the disciples are gone. Someone smiled bitterly and said, even the most basic godly stones, the Dark God Palace doesn't have much left. Hearing that, the Hall Master of the Dark God Palace chuckled and said, "The inner and outer treasuries are just part of the foundation of the Dark God Palace. The true foundation isn't here. Everyone, don't worry. The Patriarch will definitely come out of seclusion in less than 10 days. At that time, we will search the entire continent of the Nine Heavens to find that bastard Tianchun." Seeing that their Hall Master was so confident, the higher-ups of the Dark God Palace didn't have any objections and heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, someone asked if the Dark God Palace had any other treasuries. Where were they? However, the Hall Master was very tight-lipped and didn't tell anyone. He only said that the treasuries of the Dark God Palace weren't in the Dark God Palace. Reliable information? The treasuries of the Dark God Palace aren't in the Dark God Palace? Are you sure? On this day, the people sent by the Juying sect and the Farewell Valley found out the news and immediately reported back. On this day, the Farewell Valley secretly sent a group of masters to various places in the He province. They explored the mountains and rivers and also looked for various small worlds. Some people were born with magical powers and knew how to search for dragons and tombs. They directly used a compass to deduce the situation of the He province. They wanted to find some clues. Finally, on the 5th day, in the eastern part of the He province, on a barren plain, someone found some clues. This place was barren, and there wasn't a trace of human habitation within 10,000 miles. There wasn't even a single bird or insect. However, the chi of heaven and earth here was extremely dense. In the center of the plain, there was a deceiving heaven array which concealed the chi of this place. Looking carefully, at this moment, the hidden array was operating and there were seals and enchantments which were slowly disintegrating. There are seals and enchantments here, and it's in the He province. Could it be that the treasuries of the Dark God Palace are here? It's very possible. Look, the seals and enchantments here are disintegrating. I think the Dark God Palace wants to open the treasuries here. It's most likely here. The Dark God King is seriously injured, and they need to open the treasuries to take some healing pills. In the end, the group of masters in the Farewell Valley confirmed and reported this matter. Half a day later, Jiang Chen and Lu Ying received the news and quietly came to the plain. Furthermore, young Master Zhu Ming, who had not been seen for a long time, also came. This guy was in high spirits the entire way and told Jiang Chen that he had become the Valley Master of the Farewell Valley. Of course, most of the credit was due to Jiang Chen. One had to know that because of the birth of the Nine Depths, young Master Zhu Ming and the rest had almost died in the Nine Skies Court. In the end, Jiang Chen had protected him and used the power of the Nine Skies Court to help young Master Zhu Ming successfully ascend to the position. Now, after this guy became the Valley Master, he seemed to have let go of himself and walked with a light tone. You don't know that there are all kinds of people in my Farewell Valley. This time, if it weren't for the talents in my Farewell Valley, would you have found the location of the Dark God Palace's treasury? Along the way, young Master Zhu Ming bragged about his family's power and was in high spirits. However, Lu Ying's words made young Master Zhu Ming stunned. You are the Valley Master of Farewell Valley after all. Why is your cultivation so low? Lu Ying glanced sideways and teased. Based on your cultivation speed, you will be caught up by Jiang Chen soon. Young Master Zhu Ming opened his mouth, his face full of resentment, but he was powerless to refute. You say it as if having a high cultivation is useful. Jiang Chen glanced at Lu Ying and teased. Why don't you spar with me, Upper Sky God? Lu Ying's face darkened as she gave Jiang Chen the middle finger in her heart. Chapter 1009. The treasury of the Dark God Palace was here. Jiang Chen and the rest observed for a long time and finally confirmed it. Moreover, there were many formations and restrictions here, as well as many boundaries. Under normal circumstances, this place could be said to be unbreakable. Even if an emperor god came, he might not be able to break through this place. However, it was different now. The dark mystic monarch was heavily injured, and the Dark God Palace needed to open their hidden treasury to take out some healing items. Because of that, the spirit formations, restrictions, and even the spirit formations were slowly disintegrating. To be more precise, they were opening. Jiang Chun did not make a move. He knew that the formations and restrictions here were not ordinary. He could only wait for him to open them. If anyone else interfered, the Dark God Palace would definitely sense it. Then, he could only wait. Of course, he could not just wait. What good things do you think are in the treasury of the Dark God Palace? Young Master Zhu Ming asked, his eyes shining. Could there be some treasure that can let me be reborn? One should know that young Master Zhu Ming's talent in cultivation was not very good. Otherwise, his cultivation would not be so low. Young Master Zhu Ming knew that with his talent, unless he was reborn and changed his Tao foundation and origin, he wouldn't be able to improve his talent at all. However, one's foundation and origin were innate and destined. How could they be changed so easily? Ordinary treasures in the world could only change one's foundation and origin. They could not change one's foundation and origin. Only those top-notch heavenly treasures could do that. That kind of treasure was extremely rare in the world. Even a powerful force like the Farewell Valley couldn't find a single one. In fact, even those top forces might not necessarily have such a thing. If there really is such a treasure, I'll give it to you, Jiang Chun said. Will there be more 9-turn heavenly dew in here? Lu Ying looked expectant. It was true that he had used the bottle of 9 reincarnations dew Jiang Chun had given him to offer a reward for Jiang Chun. There was also a supreme god-level ancestor in the extreme shadow sect. The 9-turn heavenly dew was extremely precious to the extreme shadow sect. Lu Ying thought that if there was another bottle, the extreme shadow sect might be able to give birth to an emperor god. By then, the extreme shadow sect would be able to shine brightly. They would not even need to hide their sect and could walk in the light. There is 9 reincarnations heavenly dew in both the internal and external treasure vaults of the Dark Divine Palace. If there is really it in this hidden treasure vault, its quality will definitely be better than 9 reincarnations heavenly dew. Jiang Chun said seriously, if there is really it, I can give it to you. Then what should I do now? Young Master Zhu Ming asked with a hint of worry in his eyes. After all, this was Black Province, the Dark God Palace. It would be more dangerous if they continued to stay here. If he was discovered by the people from the Dark God Palace, even if he did not die, he would lose a layer of skin. There are many restrictions in the treasury. If you want to open the treasury, you'll need the Dark God Hall's special methods and abilities. Jiang Chun said, now, let's wait here for the people from the Dark God Palace to come and open the treasury. Then when the people from the Dark God Palace come to open the treasury, the cultivation of the person who will open the treasury should not be weak. At the very least, he should be an over-god. Lu Ying said in a low voice, can the 3 of us win? Who said we were going to fight for it? Jiang Chun joked. He waved his hand and said, stop talking. I will use the power of the myriad heavenly lamp to help you hide your aura. Then, let's start setting up the array. When Lu Ying and young Master Zhu Ming heard that, their hearts trembled. They knew that Jiang Chun was going to trick them again. Your attainments in array formations are really high, Lu Ying muttered. Then, under Jiang Chun's guidance, the 3 of them split up and used 5 days to set up layers of arrays. Also, Jiang Chun used the myriad heavenly lamp and 3 streaks of chaotic aura to hide the arrays. He even set up the deceiving array. When everything was ready, Jiang Chun and the 2 of them hid in the void and began to wait quietly. 9 Heaven's Death Array. All life equal restriction, lightless barrier. Which one of them is not a top array or restriction? With these things set up, even a peak king god would be doomed. Lu Ying and young Master Zhu Ming felt a chill in their hearts. They were full of fear towards Jiang Chun. They did not know how many arrays, barriers, and restrictions Jiang Chun had mastered. In short, he was too scary. If they offended Jiang Chun, he might secretly set up an array one day and wait for them to jump in. At this moment, the 2 of them sighed. For some reason, they suddenly sympathized with the Dark God Palace and the Dark Mystic King. If the Dark Mystic King had not taken action back then, Jiang Chun would still be dealing with the forces of the Light Master God. The Dark God Palace really asked for it, Luing muttered. In the past, Jiang Chun had destroyed 2 factions that belonged to the Light Lord God, and news of this matter had surely spread. But why did the other masters not help the Light Master God? The reason was simple. They all knew that Jiang Chun was not to be trifled with. Even the Darkness Master God and the Darkness Master God did not take action. They were all from the Dark God Palace. From this, it could be seen how strong Jiang Chun was in the hearts of the 36 masters. But who would have thought that the Darkness Master God and the Darkness Master God did not take action, but their own ancestor, the Dark Mystic King? This was great. The losses were huge. He's here? This guy looks so familiar. 10 days later, the array around the treasury disappeared. In the center of the plains, a cave that led underground appeared. It was also on this day that a man shrouded in black fog arrived. At this moment, Jiang Chen's expression was strange. He stared at the man and muttered, "This guy is seriously injured, and he's still running around? Maybe he's anxious to recover and wants to come and get the medicine himself," Luing said softly. That's right. It was the Dark Mystic King. This fool. Young Master Zhu Ming's expression was strange. Then, he became worried and asked, "Can the array that we set up suppress him?" "Don't worry, this guy is seriously injured. His strength is less than 10%. Jiang Chen said, "When he opens the door to the treasury, we'll take action. Tian Chun, wait until I recover. I won't let you off easily." At this moment, the Dark Mystic King stood at the entrance of the treasury and roared furiously. He was so angry during this period of time. "Wait until I recover to my peak. I'll turn you into ashes." After a few roars, the Dark Mystic King kept forming seals with his hands, and the door to the treasury was finally opened. However, at the instant the door to the treasury was opened, rays of profound light suddenly erupted from the surroundings, and a large amount of divine light fell down, drowning the dark, profound king. "Go!" Jiang Chen shouted. He formed seals with his hands and activated all the arrays in the treasury. Chapter 10:10. Formations, restrictions, and barriers were activated in an instant. Divine light burned like flames, and a terrifying attack appeared out of nowhere, drowning the Dark Mystic King. Who? The Dark Mystic King was shocked and furious. He never thought that someone would be so bold as to commit murder here. "It's you, Tian Chun." After a few breaths, when he saw Jiang Chen walk out of the void, the Dark Mystic King's face darkened. He was struggling with all his might, and the power in his body erupted like a flood. However, he was heavily injured, and he was suppressed by many formations, restrictions, and barriers. He couldn't break free for a while. Moreover, the formations here were violent, and attacks bombarded his body like a rain of swords, causing his body to tremble. Blood dyed his clothes red in a few breaths' time. "Thank you, Dark God Hall." Jiang Chen smiled as he walked past the Dark Mystic King, then swaggered into the treasury. After a short while, Jiang Chen walked out of the treasury and waved his hand at the Dark Mystic King. He said, "The Dark Divine Palace is too courteous. You gave me all of your hidden treasures. I don't know how I should thank you." As he spoke, Jiang Chen frowned, as if he was seriously considering it. After a few breaths' time, Jiang Chen suddenly smiled and said, "In order to express my gratitude to Dark God Hall, I've decided to give you a great killing formation." I'm going to kill you," the Dark Mystic King roared. However, he was trapped by the formation and couldn't deal with Jiang Chen at all. Moreover, Jiang Chen manipulated the tactical formation around him as soon as he finished speaking. He even merged these tactical formations together to form a dreadful killing formation. The killing formation suppressed down, and a riot of divine light fell. It was an extremely terrifying attack. Boom! Boom! Amidst the explosions, Jiang Chen's smile grew brighter. However, Jiang Chen's heart clenched very quickly. It was because the Dark Mystic King seemed to be really angry. He didn't care about his injuries and actually burned his source energy. Boom! In a short 3 breaths' time, more than 10 formations were destroyed, and even the barrier that trapped the dark mystic king was collapsing. Are you crazy? Can you still survive after burning your source while heavily injured? Jiang Chen asked. I must kill you today. The Dark Xian King was completely enraged. He had been blinded by his anger and wanted to kill Jiang Chen today at all costs. However, Jiang Chen smiled mockingly. He then stepped into the void and activated the teleportation array that he had prepared a long time ago. Then, a streak of light flashed across the void. Jiang Chen, Lu Ying, and young master Zhu Ming disappeared from the scene. Pooh! At this moment, blood sprayed out incessantly from the dark mystic monarch's mouth. It wasn't just because of his heavy injuries, it was also because of his rage. Tian Chun, if I don't kill you, I swear I'm not human. Half a day later, an important piece of news swept through the entire Nine Heavens divine world. The Dark Mystic King was heavily injured and on the verge of death. The Dark God Palace's treasury had been robbed clean. Moreover, everyone knew that it was Jiang Chen who did it. Suddenly, there were people who admired Jiang Chen. There were also people who secretly mocked Jiang Chen, thinking that he was destined to not live long after doing such a thing. There were even people who said that the Dark God Palace was going to send out all their forces to kill Jiang Chen. However, what surprised everyone was that the Dark God Palace chose to seal the mountain on the same day. The Dark God Palace has suffered a great loss this time. The Dark Mystic King is heavily injured and on the verge of death. The other hierarch ancestor of the Dark God Palace is also in deep sleep. The Dark God Palace has no choice but to seal the mountain to protect themselves. A top force was actually destroyed by Tian Chun. Many people sighed and were amazed by Jiang Chen's methods. He was too strong, too deceitful. However, there were more people who were clear-headed. They knew that the Dark God Palace, as a top force, would not be destroyed so easily. As long as the Dark Mystic King and the other hierarch ancestor were not dead, the Dark God Palace would not fall. However, the Dark God Palace should not be able to rise in the near future. Should we seal the mountain too? Tian Chen is too good at deceitful. Even the Dark God Palace was destroyed. Hiss, gather everyone and seal the mountain. On this day, the other overgods were also panicking. They did not have a top force like the Dark God Palace behind them. Now that even the Dark God Palace was destroyed, their forces would be in an even worse state if they encountered Jiang Chen. In fact, it was very likely that they would be completely destroyed. They did not have any doubts as they knew that Jiang Chen's formation skills were enough to destroy any of their forces. It can't be. More than half of the 36 overgods have chosen to seal the mountain. At the same time, in Farewell Valley, Jiang Chen also received the news. He was a little confused and secretly wondered if those overgods had to be so nervous. You destroyed the Dark God Palace. How can the other overgods not be afraid? Lu Ying said impatiently. More than half of the 36 peak overgods do not have a top force behind them. Then who should I go after next? Jiang Chen mumbled, and then realized that he had used the wrong words. He said seriously, who should I seek revenge from next? All right. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's see what's in the Dark God Palace's treasury first. Lu Ying urged with a fiery expression. Young Master Zhu Ming also looked at Jiang Chen with anticipation. There should be a lot of things. I didn't look carefully and took them all, Jiang Chen said. Then Jiang Chen waved his hand and placed the items he took from the treasury in front of the two of them. In an instant, 2 small mountains appeared in front of the 3 of them. Divine light filled the air, and they could even hear the sound of the great path. It was like the ancient and obscure chanting of scriptures. Lu Ying's eyes were sharp. She immediately saw a bottle among the treasures. The aura emanating from it was the 9 turns heavenly dew. It's not the 9 turns heavenly dew. It's the 9 heavens heavenly dew. Lu Ying exclaimed. The 9 heavens heavenly dew was the evolved version of the 9 turns heavenly dew. It took 100,000 years to brew and 1,000,000 years to condense. It could only be consumed after 10 million years. It's almost ready to be consumed. Jiangchen also exclaimed. The 9 heavens' heavenly dew had been stored for who knew how many eras. Looking at it now, it was not far from being ready to be consumed. Jiangchen kept his word and gave the 9 heavens' heavenly dew to Luing. He said, "You can't consume it for now, but judging from the aura it emits, you should be able to consume it in 3 to 5 years. What's there to be afraid of in 3 to 5 years? My grand elder has lived for a few eras. 3 to 5 years is just a blink of an eye." Luing was excited. One should know that the effects of the 9 heavens' heavenly dew were heaven-defying. Once consumed, not only could one become an emperor god immediately, but one could also condense an emperor god's path skill and become an upper-level emperor god. This thing was not seen and unobtainable for thousands of years. Chapter 10:11. The 9 heaven returning dew was given to Luing, and this guy was extremely happy. After all, with this thing, it was equivalent to having another upper divine lord. What is this? After a few breaths of time, everyone saw a green lamp among the pile of treasures. Its appearance was actually similar to Jiangchen's myriad change heavenly lamp. However, this green lamp was not lit, and there were cracks on its body. It was damaged. When Jiangchen saw this green lamp for the first time, his mind was moved, and he thought that it was really his myriad change heavenly lamp. But after carefully examining it, Jiangchen frowned and said, "It's just an ordinary green lamp. There are runes on it and some lines. It looks like coordinates." Luing held the green lamp and looked at it. Then his expression changed greatly. Young Master Zhu Ming at the side also seemed to have thought of something. He snatched the green lamp, looked at the runes and lines on it, and exclaimed, "Coordinates! It's definitely coordinates." "Coordinates? What are they?" Jiangchen asked. "Have you heard that in a certain era in the 6 realms, a group of cultivators went to other places, as if they were on an expedition?" Young Master Zhu Ming said, "According to the records, those cultivators were extremely powerful and were called the ancestors of cultivation. There were records that those people went to an indescribable place. No one knew if they were going to war or something else. But one thing is for sure, if those people are still alive, they will return." At this point, Luing nodded and said, "However, the distance between the two places is very far, so those ancestors left behind coordinates to guide them back." "Then, this green lamp is a coordinate?" Jiang Chun was astonished, staring at the lines and runes on the green lamp. After careful observation, it was indeed like a map. Moreover, these runes and lines combined together, it was like a mark. "My absolute shadow sect has a withered tree that has existed for a long time. The withered branches also have similar runes and lines, as well as a mark, but it is different from the mark on this green lamp." Luing said, "Every coordinate represents a different ancestor. This should be the location of an ancestor from the Dark God Palace." Young Master Zhu Ming said, "It's hard to imagine how terrifying their cultivation is. They're probably at the peak of cultivation. He might have surpassed the great Tao and broken free from the shackles." Luing said. At this moment, Jiangchen couldn't help but take the lamp after hearing these words. Then, he formed a seal with both hands and added layers of seals on the lamp, cutting off its connection with the outside world. Cough, cough. That ancestor of the Dark God Palace shouldn't come back for the time being. Jiangchen giggled. "If he comes back, how are we going to live? Perhaps he's already dead." Luing said, "The lamp is connected to the ancestor of the Dark God Hall. The fact that the lamp is cracked means that the ancestor of the Dark God Hall has met with an accident. Perhaps he is dead or seriously injured. Just like the ancient tree in my absolute shadow sect. It used to be luxuriant, but one day, it suddenly withered. Even the mark on it dimmed and almost disappeared." Saying this, young Master Zhu Ming's expression became serious. After thinking for a while, he said, "Actually, many people don't want those ancestors to come back." "Why?" Jiangchen asked. "Because we're not sure." Young Master Zhu Ming said, "What those ancestors will do after they come back, and what kind of effect they will have on this world is not certain. What if they come back to destroy the six realms? Jiangchen couldn't believe what he had just heard. If those ancestors really wanted to destroy the six realms, they could have done so before leaving before they went on the expedition. Why wait until they came back? But since young Master Zhu Ming said this, there must be a reason. I don't know the specifics, but a great sage once deduced and left behind a prophecy. When those ancestors come back, the six realms will no longer exist. Thus, right now, many of the top powers are secretly searching for the items in these coordinates. They are either destroying them or sealing them, young Master Zhu Ming said. The six realms are too complicated. Lu Ying sighed. Sometimes she felt like an ant. When she looked up at the sky, all she saw was light and shadow. Seal them first, Jiang Chun said softly. As for whether those ancestors can come back or not, this is not something we can decide. But when he said this, Jiang Chen's heart was not calm. He thought of the evil dominator in Eternal Fortress. Jiang Chun was sure that the evil dominator was definitely an ancestor. Before he came back, he was an amiable old monk. But after he came back, everything changed. Not only did his personality change, but his strength also increased by a large margin. Jiang Chun felt a chill in his heart when he thought about it. This was because he did not know what realm the evil dominator was at. Previously, Jiang Chun thought that the evil dominator was a master god, a peak master god, infinitely close to a divine king. But as time passed, Jiang Chun witnessed the strength of a supreme god. He suddenly realized that the evil dominator's strength was far above that of a supreme god. Then, what was the evil dominator's cultivation level? Divine Emperor? Or even surpassing the Divine Emperor? But there was one thing that Jiang Chun was sure of. After the evil dominator returned, he did not harm the six realms. Instead, he stayed in Eternal Fortress to guard it. When the ancestors come back, the six realms will no longer exist. Jiang Chun thought to himself. He felt that this was a rumor and could not be trusted. Don't worry about that. Let's split the money first, Jiang Chun said. In the end, the three of them did not pursue the matter of the ancestors. They started to split the loot. Just as the three of them were splitting the loot, in a certain space-time, in a certain place, a living being that had been sitting cross-legged for countless eras suddenly opened his eyes. At the instant his eyes opened and closed, the great Tao around him collapsed, and the world around him collapsed. Boundless light shot into the heavens and illuminated this world. The coordinates that I left in the six realms, why did they disappear? The living being frowned with a puzzled expression. Then he acted and began to deduce. After a few breaths, the living being's face darkened. His unchanging heart wavered slightly at this moment. A bunch of useless juniors. They actually lost the coordinates that I left in the six realms and were sealed by someone? The living being gritted his teeth in anger. Without the coordinates, it would be too difficult for him to return to the six realms. It was even very likely that he would be lost in the endless space-time, lose his direction, and even lose himself. Tianchen, divine king of several eras? Could it be him? After a few breaths, the living being seemed to have thought of something. A lone boat appeared under his feet and carried him into the chaotic space-time, heading toward an unknown place. At the same time, in another distant space-time, someone was walking in the chaos. The laws around him were overturned, and the surroundings were ethereal. But at this moment, a great Tao suddenly appeared under his feet, leading straight to the distance. Chapter 10:12. This person's entire body was covered in a chaotic aura. Divine light shone from his body, and the sun, moon, and stars floated under his feet. In front of him was a path that pierced through time and space, leading forward as if to welcome him. So I'm so close to the ancestral land. It's time to go back. The person said softly, then stepped on the path and disappeared. At the same time, similar scenes appeared in several corners of the world. Cracks appeared in front of some people, and starlight shone from within the cracks, like a bright lamp guiding the way. Some people stepped on auspicious clouds and shuttled through the void. flying towards the place they wanted to go. Regardless of whether it was the great thousand world or the living beings of the six realms, none of them noticed. At this moment, in Farewell Valley, Jiangchen and the other two had finished dividing the spoils. The three of them were very satisfied and happy, especially young Master Zhu Ming, who had obtained a rare elixir that could transform his foundation and origin. What are we going to do next? You're not going to look for those over-gods, are you? Lu Ying frowned and said worriedly, "We've caused such a big commotion this time. Those over-gods will be on guard." "Not for now." Jiangchen smiled and said, "I've obtained so many treasures. It's enough for them to use, and it's enough for me too." "Then stay in Farewell Valley?" Young Master Zhu Ming asked. "My identity is too special. Many people are keeping an eye on me. If I stay in the Farewell Valley, I'm afraid I'll bring you unnecessary trouble." Jiangchen frowned. He thought about it carefully, and a person popped into his mind. "It's time to go see her," Jiangchen said softly, and did not say where he was going. After bidding farewell to Lu Ying, he left Farewell Valley alone. A day later, in a small tavern in Luo Tian City in Luo State. Luo State was not very famous in the Nine Heavens Divine Realm because there were not many top forces and there were not many experts. In the eyes of the world, Luo State's overall strength was considered to be at the bottom of the entire Divine Realm. However, that was only the world's view of Luo State. In the eyes of many, especially those old monsters who had lived for several generations, Luo State's waters were very deep, not shallower than Tsang State's. There were rumors that many old divine kings lived in seclusion here, enjoying a peaceful time, not participating in the struggles of the world. There were also people who said that there was a flourishing divine emperor presiding over the Luo State. However, he had never taken action unless it concerned the survival of the Luo State. Only then would the divine emperor take action. However, these were just rumors. According to the guesses of those old monsters who had lived for several eras, although Luo Prefecture might not have a god emperor, it definitely had a few god kings. Furthermore, they were all at the pinnacle level. Therefore, under normal circumstances, no one would behave atrociously in Luo State. Even ultimate god almighties would come to Luo State to have fun and would not cause trouble there. Other than these, the most famous tea in Luo Prefecture was Luotian's Luo Tian tea. Many people traveled thousands of miles to Luozhou just to drink a pot of Luotian's tea. There were people who had drunk it before, and they lamented that this tea was comparable to a divine medicine. There was even a godly king who came here at the end of his lifespan. He originally wanted to retire, but because he drank a cup of Luotian's tea, he lived his second life and regained his glory. "Luotian, is she still making tea?" At this moment, Jiangchen entered the small tavern. The scenery here was no different from before. The only difference was that the waiter in this small tavern had changed. Jiangchen remembered very clearly that when he was Tianchun in his previous life, he came here to drink tea not long after he entered the divine realm of the Nine Heavens. However, who would have thought that he did not have enough money? After eating a free meal, he fought with the waiter here. The result was obvious. Jiangchen was suppressed on the spot. After that, if not for Luotian's intervention, Jiangchen's cultivation would have been crippled. Back then, Luotian wanted to help Jiangchen for a very simple reason. She felt that Jiangchen was too weak. That was all. Jiangchen had always been brooding over this matter. Therefore, when he became a godly king, he came here again to buy Luotian's tavern. However, in the end, he did not succeed. As for what happened, Jiangchen did not want to talk about it. He just felt that it was very embarrassing. "Waiter, give me a pot of Luotian's tea." At this moment, Jiangchen found a random seat and called for the waiter. "Sorry, sir, Luotian is not making tea today." The new waiter came over with a smile and a teapot in his hand. "Do you want to drink this?" "What is this?" Jiangchen was puzzled. "Luotian makes tea every day. Why is she not making tea today?" After Luotian became famous, she had lived here and made tea every day. This was a practice and habit. Wind could not change it, and thunder could not change it. However, today, sir, you may not know this, but Luotian is about to get married. She will not make tea for this period of time. She may not make tea in the future, the waiter explained. As soon as he said this, before Jiang Chun could speak, the others in the tavern could not sit still. Some people deliberately came here to drink a cup of Luotian's tea. However, after hearing the waiter's words, these people who came from thousands of miles away naturally felt uncomfortable. Go and call Luotian here. No matter what, this young master wants to drink a pot of tea today. Waiter, we came here from thousands of miles away. It's fine if we can't drink tea, but Luotian should at least let us see him, right? That's right. Tea's a small matter. We want to see him. Hearing these people's words, the waiter smiled bitterly and said awkwardly, I'm just a waiter who does odd jobs. Your requests are really difficult for me. As he said this, a trace of disdain flashed in the waiter's eyes. Jiang Chen also smiled bitterly. These people were not here to drink tea. They were clearly here to see Luotian. Whether Luotian's tea tasted good or not, Jiang Chen really did not know, because he did not know how to taste tea. However, Jiang Chen knew very well how Luotian looked like. There were two flowers in the ninth heaven god realm. One was above the clouds, side by side with the sun, the moon goddess. The other was known as the spirit of Luo River, which was Luotian. Thinking back, when the moon goddess fell because of Jiang Chun, it caused a sensation in the entire ninth heaven god realm. Those men who admired the moon goddess cried and wailed for a long time because of this. Fortunately, there was still the moon goddess. However, now that they heard that the moon goddess was about to get married, how could this group of people sit still? As the saying goes, if I can't have you, I can at least take a look. If you don't even let me take a look, then I won't agree to it. After the moon goddess fell, the title of the number one beauty of the ninth heaven god realm fell on Luotian's head. Someone stood up and said in a deep voice, We came because we admire Luotian. Even if we don't drink tea, we'll be satisfied with just one look. That's right. We naturally have no objections to the moon goddess getting married, but we have to see who she marries so that we can check. Chapter 10:13. Everyone in the divine world of the nine firmaments knew about Luotian's beauty. Now that Luotian was about to get married, those who adored her felt very uncomfortable. Moreover, many people were confused. Since when did the moon goddess like someone? Isn't she just a tea maker? Look at how excited you are, Jiang Chun complained inside. In his eyes, Luotian was just the proprietress of a small tavern, a tea maker. Apart from her good looks, there was nothing special about her. Everyone, no ordinary person is worthy of Luotian's beauty, the waiter said. Right now, the person Luotian is about to marry is the young master of the Pingtian clan behind the Glittering Jewel Academy. The young master of the Pingtian clan? The one who's as famous as the world's edge. At that moment, the group of people was stunned. Indeed, they did not want to see Luotian get married. However, the person Luotian was about to marry was far too extraordinary. The young master of the Pingtian clan had a noble status. Moreover, his talent was so great that it could be said that he was rarely seen since ancient times. A person like that was indeed worthy of Luotian. However, there were also people who were furious. They could not help but say, did the Pingtian clan force Luotian? As soon as these words came out, it immediately received the agreement of many people. After all, ever since Luotian had opened the tavern, they had never heard of her liking anyone. Normally, Luotian was very elegant and otherworldly. She was untainted by the world, like an ethereal fairy. Everyone found it very difficult to imagine why such an ethereal person would suddenly want to get married. Even Jiang Chun was stunned. He thought that this matter was rather strange. In the past, Jiang Chun and Luotian had a good relationship. When the two of them communicated, Luotian had told Jiang Chun that she was from the Luoshui Dao. The purity of the water meant that her heart was pure. She did not care about the world and abandoned all distracting thoughts. How could she get married? Troubled times are coming. Luotian is a weak woman. She has to find a home. The waiter sighed. The creatures of the boundless universe are coming, and so are the creatures of the underworld. Everyone wants to live. Even Luotian is no exception. But there's no need to get married. Yeah, as long as Luotian nods and comes to my sect, I will protect her." When the waiter heard this, a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes. These people's identities were not bad, and their cultivations were also high, but compared to the peaceful Sky Clan, what were they? At the same time, the waiter knew a little about Luotian. Marrying the young master of the Pingtian clan this time was Luotian's own decision. The Pingtian clan did not force her. However, the waiter was also very curious as to why Luotian would make such a decision. Could it be that he had some difficulties? Waiter, serve the tea. Suddenly, a cold, emotionless voice rang out from the second floor of the tavern. The second floor of the tavern did not receive customers because the second floor was Luotian's residence. Now that the voice had rang out from the second floor, the first floor immediately fell silent. Everyone looked towards the stairs, wanting to see Luotian's appearance. However, Luotian did not come down. Instead, she ordered the waiter to serve a pot of tea to Jiangchen. There were so many people in the tavern, so giving Jiangchen a pot of tea naturally attracted everyone's attention. Tianchen? Jiangchen? Only now did everyone notice Jiangchen. After all, everyone's attention had been drawn away by Luotian's marriage, so they paid no attention to a measly god. Tianchen, you still have the guts to come out? You destroyed 2 organizations under the Radiant Overgod, looted the Dark God Hall, and even offered a bounty to assassinate the Dark Mystic King. Why do you still have the guts to come out? Everyone had strange expressions, and some of them even emitted killing intent. I'm here today to drink tea, Jiangchen said softly as he poured himself a cup of tea. After taking a sip, a fierce look flashed across his eyes as he said, "If you want to fight, I don't mind stretching my legs." You're just an upper heavenly god. We've long heard that when you destroyed the 2 organizations under the Radiant Overgod, you asked for help. Later on, when you looted the Dark God Hall, you used formations. What kind of true power do you have? In our eyes, you're too weak in this life. Among the people present, there were a few people from the organizations under the 36 Overgods. These people's words were extremely unpleasant, and their killing intent was obvious. Moreover, as they spoke, they walked towards Jiangchen. "Lady boss, I'm here to drink tea. I'm a guest," Jiangchen said with a smile. "As a guest, I'm being beaten up in your tavern. Shouldn't you come out and intervene?" "Is it my turn to intervene?" On the second floor, Luotian's cold voice rang out. "The great deity Tian Chen doesn't need the help of a small overgod like me." Jiangchen was stunned for a moment, wondering why Luotian was different from before. In the past, although Luotian was cold and aloof, he wasn't so heartless. Especially back when Jiangchen and Luotian were discussing the Tao, Luotian was quite enthusiastic. Now what was going on? Why had his attitude changed so much? That's easy. Since Luotian isn't going to intervene, then, today, you don't have any formations or helpers. Let's see how you'll walk out of this tavern alive. In an instant, 2 overgods and a tidal god walked over and surrounded Jiangchen. Then, the few of them attacked at the same time, and violent divine powers surged like waves. "That's it?" Jiangchen said softly. He didn't even get up. His palms struck across the air, and the sound of dragons and tigers instantly rang out. Then, a rose bloomed, and the shadow of a dragon followed. With a sweep, the few of them were instantly suppressed. "I've said that I'm here to drink tea today. I don't want to fight," Jiangchen said softly. "However, if you can't tolerate me, then, today, you can also see blood. This guy, a higher heavenly god, can suppress a tidal god with a flick of his finger? Judging from his looks, he hasn't used his full strength yet. Maybe he can fight a master god." The people present weren't blind. They could tell that Jiangchen's combat power was extraordinary. For a moment, no one dared to find trouble with Jiangchen. "After drinking this pot of tea, you can leave," Luotian's voice rang out from the second floor again. It sounded like he was asking them to leave. However, to everyone's surprise, Jiangchen frowned when he heard this. With a look of displeasure, he got up and walked toward the second floor. Sir, seeing this, the waiter hurriedly stepped forward and stopped Jiangchen. At the same time, someone stared at Jiangchen and said coldly, "Since the establishment of this small pub, no one except Luotian has ever gone up to the second floor. This is the rule." "Nonsense. I've been up there before. I even slept with her." Jiangchen raised his eyebrows and said, "If you don't believe me, you can ask Luotian. Back then, she and I were on the second floor, on her bed, drinking tea and discussing Tao. The one who was going to be married wasn't Yuetian, but Luotian. It was Luotian. It was Luotian." Important things must be said 3 times. Chapter 10:14. Drinking tea and discussing Taoism on Luotian's bed. What the F***? The crowd was in an uproar. In everyone's hearts, Goddess Luotian was pure and untainted by the mortal world. How could she bring a man into her boudoir? And even let him sit on her bed? Oh my God! It's bad enough that you messed with Yuetian, but I didn't expect you to do the same to Luotian. Cries of agony filled the place, and some even clutched their chests, their hearts broken. When Jiangchen heard this, his face darkened, and the corner of his mouth twitched. What the F***? Are you trying to stir up trouble? At this moment, Jiangchen was too lazy to explain. He pushed the waiter aside and rushed up to the second floor. He kicked open the door to the second floor and saw an extremely beautiful person sitting on a rocking chair, leisurely drinking tea. This person was Luotian. "Aren't you going to explain yourself?" At this moment, Jiangchen walked up to Luotian with a gloomy face, pulled out a chair, and sat down beside him. Luotian seemed to have known that Jiangchen would do this, and was not surprised at all. He picked up his teacup, took a sip, and said calmly, "I can't control the mouths of the people in this world. You can't control whether you're a man or a woman." Jiangchen felt a chill in his heart. How could there be such a person in this world? Others might not know, but Jiangchen knew very well. Luotian, who was known to be second only to Yuetian in terms of looks, was a man. In the past, Jiangchen even learned from Luotian in person that this guy got tired of making tea and serving water in a tavern. So he found a rich female master god. That was how he was raised by her. But what Jiangchen did not expect was that after so many years, the world still did not know that Luotian was a man. Most importantly, Luotian had never come forward to explain himself. "Whether I'm a man or a woman, it's enough for me to know. Why do I have to explain it to others?" Luotian said lightly, "They're the ones who are blind. They can't even differentiate between a man and a woman." "Good. Let's not talk about this anymore. Then let's talk about it first. You're AF** King man. Why are you getting married?" Jiangchen endured the chills and asked. Hearing this, Luotian's eyes flashed with a trace of helplessness. A trace of sadness appeared on her beautiful face. She sighed and said, "I have no choice. I just want to survive." Boom! Before Jiangchen could speak, someone rushed up and kicked open the door that had just been closed. Then a group of people rushed in. When they saw Jiangchen sitting on the chair with a swagger, their hearts ached. "Luotian, you're the #1 beauty in the divine realm of the 9 heavens. Can't you keep yourself clean? Although we are your admirers, but your behavior is too unacceptable." Many people scolded, but their tone was still gentle. "Jiangchen, I don't care who you were in your previous life. In this life, you've recultivated. The Divine King's Godhead is no longer there. You have no identity. You're just a higher celestial god. How dare you sit together with Luotian? I want to fight you." The group of people seemed to have gone berserk. They could not accept that the goddess in their hearts was giving Jiangchen such special treatment. Hearing this, Jiangchen's face darkened. He stared at Luotian as if to say, "Shouldn't you explain yourself?" However, Luotian really did not explain. He slowly stood up. His jade-like hand, that was fairer than a woman's, gently waved in the air. Teacups landed in front of everyone. "Since you're all here, you can drink tea here. I'll make an exception," Luotian said. This is Luotian's boudoir. We're so lucky. The goddess invited us to drink tea in her boudoir. The group of people was still furious, but after Luotian poured them a cup of tea, they were fine. However, Jiang Chen's face became more and more gloomy. Staring at Luo Shun, he even transmitted his voice to her. You should explain this to me quickly. I'm not taking the blame. Won't I die if I explain now? Luotian remained unperturbed. He secretly transmitted his voice to Jiang Chun. I'm about to marry into the Pingtian clan. If I say I'm a man now, won't the Pingtian clan think I'm toying with them? Won't they skin me alive? Jiang Chun became furious when he heard that. Since you know you can't afford to offend the Pingtian clan, why did you agree to marry the young master of the Pingtian clan? Is there something wrong with your head? However, what Luotian said next made Jiang Chun understand Luotian's difficulties. In the past, Luotian was indeed unwilling to explain his gender. After all, these people could not even tell if he was a man or a woman. So what was the point of explaining? However, when he wanted to explain later on, it was already too late. Luotian controlled the Luo River in the divine world of the 9 firmaments. This was something everyone knew. This was because Luotian's original body was a droplet of Luo River that had gained sentience. As for Luo River, it flowed out from the great void. Its source was unknown, and its destination was unknown. Now, Luotian told Jiang Chun that the source of Luo River was in the netherworld. Now, Yin and Yang were about to become chaotic. Once Yin and Yang lost their balance, the creatures of the netherworld could enter the world of the living without any scruples. However, this was not absolute. This was because if the creatures of the netherworld wanted to enter the world of the living, they had to cross Luo River. Luo River was also known as dead water. Living things could not cross it. Every creature that wanted to cross Luo River had to pay a great price. And now, the netherworld was about to attack the world of the living. So it was impossible for every creature to pay a great price to cross Luo River. Then, if they wanted to cross Luo River and enter the world of the living without paying any price, there was only one way. Fill up the great river of Luo River. Luotian was the spirit of Luo River. If they wanted to fill up the great river of Luo River, they had to kill him first. Now, Luotian had thought of a way to submit to the Pingtian clan in order to protect himself. Otherwise, when he was found by the creatures of the netherworld, if there was no one to protect him, he would definitely die. You also know that my main body is the spirit of Luo River. Luotian sighed bitterly and said, I have isolated the boundary between Yin and Yang. The creatures of the netherworld want to kill me and fill up the great river of Luo River. But you don't need to use this method to save your life, right? Jiang Chen frowned. Then what other way is there? Luotian asked back. One had to know that in this era, not only was a prosperous era about to descend, a chaotic era had also followed. In this era, what was a divine king? Even a divine venerable might not be able to stand firm. Only by obtaining the protection of those top forces could they survive. And in the current 9th heaven divine realm, the strongest in everyone's eyes, only the Pingtian clan dared to come out and fight against the netherworld. As for the world's edge, Tongtian Church and other forces, they had all sealed their mountains. Luotian could not find them even if he wanted to. This matter is a little troublesome, Jiang Chen said in a deep voice. If the people of the Pingtian clan find out that you are a man, Chapter 10:15. Luotian was worried about this as well. What if the Pingtian clan learned that he was a man and that he had married their young master? Just the thought of it was terrifying. You mean as long as you don't die, even if Yin and Yang are in chaos, the creatures of the netherworld will have to pay a price if they want to enter the world of the living? Jiang Chen suddenly realized the crux of the matter. That's right. Luotian nodded. The Luo River is also known as dead water. It separates the two worlds of the netherworld and lies between them. It's like a dividing line. Anyone who wants to cross it will have to pay a price. Then, as long as you don't die, the Luo River won't be destroyed. The beings of the netherworld will have to pay a price if they want to enter the world of the living. Doesn't that weaken them in a disguised way? Jiang Chen asked. You can understand it that way, Luoshan said softly, but then he shook his head. But it can't be generalized. Once they exceed a certain limit, they won't be affected by the Luo River. A sliver of worry finally appeared on Luoshan's face when he reached there. He did not want to dwell on this topic any longer. Right now, what he was most concerned about was how he could hide this from the Pingtian clan. After all, the Pingtian clan had a god emperor, and they definitely had an emperor. Luoshan would definitely not be able to see through this before a being like that. When the time came, the young master of the Pingtian clan would actually marry a man. What would become of the Pingtian clan's dignity if this were to spread? When that happened, he would have to kill Luoshan to regain his dignity. Speaking of which, why have you come looking for me today? Luoshan asked. What do you think? Jiang Chen glanced at him and said exasperatedly, Where's the thing I asked you to protect? Luoshan's expression became rather unnatural when he said that. Before Jiang Chen had died, he had left a bone coffin here for Luoshan to clean and preserve with the Luo River. This time, Jiang Chen had come here to take the bone coffin back, of course. Back then, when Jiang Chen obtained the bone coffin, it was also an accident. At that time, Jiang Chen had just become a god king not long ago. Coincidentally, he went to the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea and accidentally entered a small world. It was in that small world that Jiang Chen saw a terrifying scene. Everything in the small world was white. Even the blood was not red. The ground was littered with white bones, and the rotten flesh was pale white. Even the brilliant sun and bright moon were pale white. It was in that small world that Jiang Chen found the bone coffin. He originally thought that it was a very ordinary coffin, but when Jiang Chen carefully examined it, he discovered that this bone coffin had a great background. It was made from the bones of the ancestral dragon and was covered in white vein patterns. They looked like runes, but also like a scripture. Moreover, there was a strand of black hidden under the white lines. That black color seemed to be the darkest thing in the world, eerie and cold. After Jiang Chen obtained the bone coffin, he studied it for a long time and finally discovered that this bone coffin was sealed. And the thing that sealed the bone coffin was that black substance. Finally, Jiang Chen found Luoshan and got him to use the Luo River to purify the black substance on the bone coffin, hoping to open the bone coffin. Of course, that was all there was now. Jiang Chen did not need to worry about it in this life. It was only because after Jiang Chen handed the bone coffin to Luoshan, he made another trip to that small world. Finally, he found a ruin. Inside the ruin, there was an inscription tablet. Some things were recorded on it, including this bone coffin. According to the inscription tablet, that small world was originally the Tao field of a major sect. But because of an unforeseen event, the entire major sect was destroyed. And back then, the strongest person of that major sect was seriously injured and fell into a deep sleep. It was suspected that he had entered this bone coffin. And most importantly, that major sect was suspected to be related to the ancestors. Now, Jiang Chen had come into contact with more and more things about the ancestors. Jiang Chen wanted to understand what kind of creatures the ancestors were. What was their attitude towards the six realms? Would they destroy the six realms, just like the great sage had deduced? Or would they protect the six realms? You might not believe it, but I suspect that the person buried in this bone coffin might be related to me, Jiang Chen said in a deep voice. The inscription tablet recorded that after the major sect was destroyed, the sect leader entered the bone coffin. And the inscription tablet also recorded that the words Tian Xian and Tian Qing were mentioned. If it was before, Jiang Chen would naturally not care. But in this life, Jiang Chen knew many things. For example, he had reincarnated several times. Then, the words Tian Xian and Tian Qing mentioned on the inscription tablet. Were they referring to his previous lives? If that was the case, then what was the relationship between Jiang Chen and this major sect? Jiang Chen could not help but think about it. Now, he urgently wanted to open the bone coffin and find out. However, You also know that I was raised by a female master god. Luotian muttered, you also know why that female master god raised me. I also spent a lot of things. So? Jiang Qin's heart thumped. He was afraid that something had happened. No one expected that you would be reincarnated. So after you died, I offered the bone coffin to that female master god. Luotian did not dare to look at Jiang Qin now, because he knew that since Jiang Qin had come this time, it meant that the bone coffin was very important to him. But now, the bone coffin was gone. Jiang Qin suddenly stood up, his face dark. In front of everyone, he pointed at Luotian's nose and said, do you believe that I won't cut you? You dare! Impudent! Speak to my goddess with respect. Without waiting for Luotian to speak, the group of people around them stood up and protected Luotian behind them. This scene made Jiang Qin a little confused. Was it worth it for them to do this for a man? A bunch of blind idiots, Jiang Qin thought. He glared at Luotian and asked, where's that female master god? She's now the wife of the 10,000 Pong Bank's master, Luotian said telepathically. At this moment, Jiang Qin felt dizzy and almost fainted. His heart was in a mess. The riches circle was really messy. Don't you know how the 10,000 Pong Bank does things? They only take in and not take out. It's easier said than done to take back the bone coffin from the 10,000 Pong Bank, Jiang Qin said in a low voice. He was having a headache. Moreover, if it was someone else, they might be able to use something to exchange for the bone coffin from the 10,000 Pong Bank. But if it was Jiang Qin, it would not work. In his previous life, Jiang Qin's debt with the 10,000 Pong Bank was an astronomical figure. In the end, before he could repay the debt, Jiang Qin died, but now, unless he paid off all the debts he owed in his previous life, he could forget about it. Aren't you on good terms with the 10,000 Pong Bank? If you go and take it, they won't give it to you? Luotian muttered. What do you know? Jiang Qin's face darkened. That was in the past. Now they can ignore me? Who cares what I am? I'm nothing. Chapter 10:16. 3,000 years ago, when Jiang Qin was the deity king, the divine world of 9 heavens was very peaceful. Even the ancient deity kings and godly venerables did not appear. At that time, Jiang Qin was the strongest person in the divine world of 9 heavens. That was why Tong Bank opened the back door for Jiang Qin and let him pay on credit, because the 10,000 Pong Bank also wanted to draw Jiang Qin to their side. But who would have thought that in his previous life, Jiang Qin was ambushed by 36 chief gods and died, and the debt that he owed back then had not been paid off until now. Of course, if Jiang Qin was still the strongest person in this life, then he would not have to pay off this debt. After all, everyone wanted to rope in the strongest person. But now, what was Jiang Qin? In my previous life, there must have been some kind of restriction that caused those ancient deity kings and godly venerables to not appear. That was why I was invincible for a while. Jiang Qin sighed. But this life is different. The ancient deity kings are reviving, and godly venerables have appeared. There are even emperor gods and emperors. Compared to them, even if I were to recover to my previous life's peak cultivation, I would not be able to enter Tong Bank's eyes. At this point, Jiang Qin felt a headache coming on. In this life, I can't say that you are nothing. Luotian muttered softly. In this life, you are a disciple of the sky-reaching church, the acting royal lord of 9 heavens dynasty, and a teacher of Glory World Academy. Are these identities not enough? Will the 10,000 barrels money house do me a favor? Jiang Qin said unhappily. Tong Bank was very realistic. If Jiang Qin was not strong enough and relied on other forces, they would not give him face at all. Jiang Qin even suspected that if he was found by Tong Bank now, they would skin him alive. All right, someone might be able to help. Suddenly, Jiang Qin's heart lit up. He thought of someone, and that was Zhou Tian. Back then, when he first met Zhou Tian, it was because of the young miss of 10,000 Pong Bank, Ji Qingxue. Under the 9 heavens was Ji Qingxue's best friend, and they were very close. In that case, if he could get Ji Qingxue to retrieve the bone coffin from the 10,000 Pong Bank through his connections with the Nine Heavens, it would not be impossible. It was just that Nine Heavens had lost his memories now. He didn't know if he could help Jiang Chun. Thinking of this, Jiang Chun couldn't sit still anymore. He glared at Luo Xin and said in a deep voice, "Be careful. If the Pingtian clan really does find me, I'll go to the Nine Sky Empire. I hope we won't be discovered." Luo Xin smiled bitterly. In the end, Jiang Chun left and used the teleportation array in Luotian City to arrive at the Jiotian court. The current Nine Sky dynasty had already been unsealed. Furthermore, he announced to the world that he would protect all living beings in the world against the Netherworld and the Greater Thousand Worlds. Now, because of this announcement, the Nine Skies court's reputation in the God realm had risen greatly, and their prestige had increased greatly. Many people came because of the reputation. Some joined the dynasty, and some experts became guests of the dynasty. Of course, there were also people who came to seek refuge. Looking around, there were many living beings in the current Jiotian court. Just the mountain gate alone had dozens of people, and in the square, there were hundreds of disciples cultivating. Moreover, Jiang Chun even saw a few lords and an ancient godly king. And to the current Jiang Chun, these were naturally not strange. After all, in this life, Jiang Chun could be considered to have seen the world. He had even met a divine venerable. However, when he entered the mountain gate, passed through the square, and arrived in front of the main hall of the Jiotian court, his expression changed. In front of the main hall was the square. At this moment, in front of the main hall, there was a skinny old man sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Divine light flickered on his body, and there were great Tao runes condensed around him. Under his seat, there were strands of laws spiraling like true dragons. He seemed to be preaching to the disciples in the square. And the moment Jiang Chun saw this skinny old man, his soul instinctively trembled. It was as if he had encountered a primordial beast, or as if he had seen an emperor. A sense of submission swept through his heart and even his soul. "Senior," Jiang Chun's body trembled. The feeling of submission in his heart grew stronger and stronger. He almost couldn't help but kneel down. Fortunately, the old man woke up at this moment. The aura on his body disappeared, and he turned into a very ordinary old man. When he saw Jiang Chun, he hurriedly stood up and cupped his hands at Jiang Chun. He revealed a set of yellow teeth and smiled. "Thank you for unsealing me, Jiang Chun." Unsealing? Jiang Chun was stunned for a moment, then reacted and asked, "Senior, you've come out?" Back then, Jiang Chun had unsealed the Jiotian court and released Jiu Shun. After that, he was entrusted by Jiu Shun to enter the world behind the bronze door. With the power of the array, he slowly unsealed the blood moon. He didn't expect that after so long, the living being sealed in the blood moon would come out. Moreover, he recovered very quickly, and his cultivation seemed to have reached the emperor god level. Even an emperor! I've been sealed in the blood moon for who knows how many eras. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to come out in this life. The old man was filled with gratitude and said, "My name is Gio. If you don't mind, you can call me Old Gio as an equal. You can even call me Old Gio. No matter who I was in the past, it's all in the past. In this life, I'm Jiang Chun." Jiang Chun smiled. "I'll call you Senior Gio. I don't dare to be called Senior. Just call me Old Gio." Old Gio said seriously, "Although the past lives are in the past, I still remember. It's my fortune to be able to talk to you on the same level." After saying that, Old Gio's expression turned serious. After staring at Jiang Chun for a while, he asked seriously, "You have chaotic chi?" Jiang Chun's expression changed. He didn't expect Old Gio to see through the abnormality in his body. Moreover, looking at Old Gio's expression, he seemed to be very wary. There was a trace of fear in the depths of his eyes. "Senior, is there a problem with this chaotic chi?" Jiang Chun asked hurriedly. One had to know that the 3 strands of chaotic chi had merged with Jiang Chun's soul. It could be said that they were attached to Jiang Chun's soul. If there was a problem with the 3 strands of chaotic chi, Jiang Qin's soul couldn't be protected. By then, his soul would be scattered. This is hard to say. Old Jiu frowned with a trace of doubt. Logically speaking, chaotic chi can't be controlled by anyone. Since ancient times, those who were tainted by chaotic chi didn't have a good ending. Some even disappeared for no reason. When Jiang Chun heard that, he felt a chill in his heart. He asked, disappeared for no reason? Could they have been swallowed by chaotic chi? Maybe they were swallowed, but there are rumors that those who wanted to control chaotic chi weren't swallowed. Instead, they went to another world. Old Gio said and shook his head. It's very strange, but there's no proof. It's hard to say. Chapter 10:17. There were many legends about the primal chaos, but most of them were strange. Even an emperor god would not dare to step into the primal chaos. At this moment, old Zhu stopped talking about this topic. He looked at Jiang Chen seriously and said, "The Jiotian imperial court has appeared again. Don't go out. Stay here and cultivate. It's very chaotic outside. Many forces have quietly appeared. You haven't even heard of some of them." "Which forces?" Jiang Chen asked. Jiang Chen knew that the Jiotian divine world was very deep, but no one knew how deep it was. Perhaps only those old monsters who had lived for several eras would know a thing or two. Let's not talk about the Tianya clan and the Pingtian clan for now. Now the world knows about the existence of these 2 forces. Old Jio said as he looked into the distance. After taking a deep breath, a hint of fear flashed in his eyes. The 3 mountains and 6 seas are about to appear. In the end, old Jiu sighed and explained to Jiang Chun what the 3 mountains and 6 seas were. A long time ago, the 3 mountains were known as the 3 clear upper sects. However, due to a great change, the 3 clear upper sects collapsed and eventually split into 3 sections. Each of them established their own sect, using the 3 clear upper sects' divine mountain as their base. Thus, they changed their name to 3 mountains. The 3 mountains had been very powerful since ancient times. There were even later human emperors who imitated one of the 3 mountains and named their dojo the 3rd mountain. At this point, Jiang Qin's expression turned serious. Could the human emperor that old Jiu was talking about be the one from the godless continent? One had to know that there was a forbidden area in the godless continent called the 3rd mountain, and the one who lived in the 3rd mountain was the one who called himself the human emperor. However, before Jiang Chun could ask, old Jiu continued. The 3 mountains were now in the forbidden area of the East Sea. Each of them occupied an island and became a forbidden area. They never allowed outsiders to enter. Even the disciples could only live on the island and could not enter the mountain in the true sense. The 3 mountains had always been mysterious, but there were some people who understood some things. The divine world of the 9th heaven, and even the chaos of the 6 worlds, had the shadows of the 3 mountains behind it. Old Ninth was not the only one who was worried. Even the leaders of the other top forces were worried. Did the 3 mountains want to destroy the 6 realms? One had to know that in the past, there had been an upheaval that had led to the destruction of 3 forbidden lands. Hundreds of millions of living beings had died, and the entire god realm had been dyed in blood. On the other hand, the upheaval all those years ago had even caused the mortal dimension to collapse and almost be obliterated. Later on, if not for the human emperor taking action, using a great divine ability to protect the human realm, the other side might not even need to take action. The human realm would have long been destroyed. Hearing this, Jiang Qin's heart tightened. If 9th Brother's words were true, then the 3 mountains were too terrifying. The chaos it caused almost destroyed a great world. Right now, all 3 mountains have reappeared. However, they have yet to come out from the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea. Old Nine said, I can sense the auras of those old monsters in the 3 mountains. They are as strong as ever, as if they will not weaken with time. Their vitality and lifespan are still as strong as ever. 3 mountains and 6 seas? What are the 6 seas? Jiang Chen asked. One of the 6 seas is the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea. Old Nine said, when the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea was mentioned, the confusion on his face became even more intense. That was because the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea had been a forbidden area since ancient times. However, no one knew who the owner of the forbidden area was. In this world, many people had entered the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea. Some came back alive, while others died inside. Those who came out alive had never seen the owner of the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea. Some of their memories seemed to have been cut off and disappeared after coming out of the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea. The most puzzling thing was that the Eastern Sea was a forbidden area. So why were the 3 mountains built in the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea? Wasn't this the forbidden area of the forbidden areas? As the owner of the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea, could he really tolerate the 3 mountains building forces in his territory? Maybe the owner of the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea died a long time ago, or he didn't want to care about these things at all. Old Nine said in a low voice, "Is there some treasure in the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea?" Jiangchen said softly, "Otherwise, why would the 3 mountains be built in the Eastern Sea?" "This is just a guess," Old Nine said. "There are many guesses about the Eastern Sea, but there is only one that is the most convincing." "What is it?" Jiangchen asked. Old Nine took a few deep breaths. His expression was very serious. After a few breaths, he slowly said, "The forbidden area of the Eastern Sea might be the place where the southern wall manifests. Otherwise, why would the 3 mountains enter the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea? Also, why had the owner of the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea never been seen? Perhaps there was only one possibility. The forbidden area of the Eastern Sea did not have an owner. This place was just a natural barrier to protect the southern wall. Moreover, the 3 mountains were the top forces. In their eyes, the realm of the gods, or even the entire 6 realms, was not worth their time. They were high and mighty and had long transcended. How could ordinary things enter their eyes? After all these guesses, many people came to the conclusion that the 3 mountains entered the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea for the southern wall. Of course, these were all guesses. No one knew the truth. Perhaps the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea had an owner. Perhaps he was dead, or perhaps he was still alive. As for the 3 mountains entering the forbidden area of the Eastern Sea, they might have other motives. Other than the Eastern Sea, what other seas are there? Jiangchen asked. Reincarnation, netherworld, limitless, rendition, and rebirth, Old Nine said. There was a hint of fear in his eyes. This made Jiangchen very surprised and even a little shocked. During the conversation, Jiangchen found out that Old Nine was an emperor, which was the highest realm among the known realms. Such a living being stood at the peak of cultivation and looked down on the world, inexhaustible and indestructible. Logically speaking, such a living being would only be afraid. How could there be fear? However, at this moment, Jiangchen could clearly see the fear in Old Nine's eyes. Wait, these seas, why are their names so strange? All of a sudden, Jiangchen realized something. Reincarnation, netherworld, limitless, poison, and rebirth. These names, why do they sound like things that only exist in the underworld? Could it be that these 5 seas originated from the underworld? You should have guessed it right. Old Nine said seriously. There was once an underworld, which was called the ancient underworld by later generations. However, the ancient underworld collapsed a long time ago and was destroyed. In later generations, the ancient underworld reappeared, but it turned into 5 different forces, and these 5 forces are the 5 seas. Old Nine's expression was very serious. Not only was there fear in his eyes, but even the fear on his face could not be concealed. These 5 seas, their purpose is very clear. They want to destroy everything and revive the ancient underworld. Old Nine said. Chapter 10:18. The purpose of the 3 mountains was not clear. Most people were just guessing. However, The purpose of the six seas was well known. The ancient hell was established during the primordial era and flourished during the later primordial era. At that time, the ancient hell was full of experts, and there was no lack of emperors. There were even suspected to be existences that surpassed emperors. At that time, the ancient hell was said to have truly controlled the cycle of reincarnation. Whoever it wanted to die would die, and whoever it wanted to live would live. At that time, all living beings in the world could be reincarnated, but they had to obtain the consent of the ancient hell. It was precisely because of this that some people rebelled. In the end, they joined forces with many top experts to destroy the ancient hell and break the cycle of reincarnation. Reincarnation was no longer under the control of the ancient hell. However, what the world did not expect was that after the ancient hell was destroyed, the cycle of reincarnation also changed. In the later generations, not everyone could be reincarnated. Some people died and never appeared again. Sometimes, some people would think that if the ancient hell was not destroyed, would the cycle of reincarnation still be controlled? Would every living being be reincarnated? Some people also regretted that if the ancient hell was still around, when their lifespan was exhausted, as long as they gave the ancient hell enough treasures and lowered their status, they might be able to reincarnate and live another life. However, everything was in the past. The ancient hell was destroyed in the end, and there were still people who refused to accept it. However, just when everyone thought that the ancient hell would never appear again, the five seas appeared in the later generations. In the primordial era, the five seas appeared out of thin air and controlled a corner of the cycle of reincarnation. They could allow people to reincarnate and live another life, or even several lives. However, the actions of the five seas were unacceptable to the people of the world. They carried the will of the ancient hell and wanted to control all living beings in the world. They wanted to control their cycle of life and death. This naturally caused dissatisfaction among the people. At the end of the primordial era, the five seas finally caused public outrage. In the end, they were defeated and went into hiding. At this point, the five seas and the ancient hell disappeared from the eyes of the people of the world. They did not appear for several generations. However, many people knew that such a force could not be destroyed. They must have gone into hibernation, looking for an opportunity to appear again. They might even control the cycle of life and death and reappear in the ancient hell. Do you know what it means to reappear in the ancient hell? Old Nine asked. I don't. Jiang Chun shook his head. Perhaps Jiang Chun had come into contact with these things in his previous lives, but he knew nothing about them in this life. As for the matter of the 3 mountains and 6 seas, he only knew a little about it after hearing Old Ninth's words. They want to turn this world into a true underworld. Old Jiu said in a deep voice, all living beings are like wandering ghosts in the underworld. They are at the mercy of the underworld. This is their goal. So, nobody would agree to the reappearance of the ancient hell? Jiang Chen asked. When Old Ninth heard this, he shook his head firmly and vetoed it. This was because there were many people in the world who did not want to die just like that. But now, there was a problem with reincarnation. Not everyone could reincarnate. Therefore, if those people knew that the 5 great seas were about to appear, they would definitely stand on the side of the 5 great seas. If he could help the 5 great seas rebuild the ancient underworld, then their reincarnation and rebirth would be secured. Even if the ancient hell could not be rebuilt, the 5 great seas still controlled a corner of reincarnation. At least, they could let those people reincarnate for 1 or 2 lives. The 5 great seas have appeared, so have the 3 mountains. The chaos of yin and yang has descended, the southern wall is about to collapse, and the greater 1,000 worlds are about to enter the 9 heavens divine realm. The water is getting muddier and muddier. Even if it's a god emperor, or even an emperor, they might not be able to safely survive this great chaos. Old Ninth sighed. When he appeared this time, Old Ninth thought that with his emperor cultivation, he would be able to suppress everything and restore the former glory of the 9 heavens imperial court. But he didn't expect that he would encounter such a chaotic world that was rarely seen since ancient times. Now, the only thing Old Ninth could do was to protect the Nine Heavens Imperial Court. Even if he had to use his life, he had to ensure that the Nine Heavens Imperial Court's inheritance would not be destroyed. Because of this, after he appeared, the Nine Heavens Imperial Court announced to the world. This was not only to increase their own strength, but also to accept disciples. The Nine Heavens Imperial Court wanted to spread the inheritance. If the Nine Heavens Imperial Court was really destroyed one day, at least the seeds would still be there. Perhaps one day, the Nine Heavens Imperial Court would reappear. At this moment, Jiang Chun fell silent. During this period of time, he had wandered outside and gained a lot. For example, tidal power and cultivation resources. He had obtained them all. With these things, Jiang Lu and the rest did not have to worry about the future. As long as they did not die, it was at least enough for them to cultivate to God King. With this, Jiang Chun also felt that there was no need for him to continue wandering outside. Perhaps it was time to come back and cultivate in peace. But before that, Jiang Chun still had something to do. Can you make a trip to the 10,000 Pong Bank and help me get something back? Jiang Chun looked at Old Ninth and said, "That is a bone coffin that I obtained in my previous life. It is now in the hands of the 10,000 Pong Bank." Is that thing important? Old Ninth frowned. If it is very precious, the 10,000 Pong Bank will not return it for free. They will definitely need to exchange something of equivalent value. Speaking up to here, Old Ninth's expression became strange and said, "Didn't you rob the Dark God Palace? With so many treasures on you, you should be able to exchange for that bone coffin, right?" Hearing this, Jiang Chun blushed and said, I'm afraid it's not enough." One had to know that Jiang Chun had borrowed too much money from the 10,000 Pong Bank. It was an astronomical figure. Now, even if Jiang Chun gave all the things he had stolen from the Dark God Palace to the 10,000 Pong Bank, he might not be able to repay it. Therefore, it was not convenient for him to personally deal with this matter. He could only entrust it to others. Now that the chaotic world is about to arrive, as the Emperor, if I express my goodwill to the 10,000 Pong Bank, the 10,000 Pong Bank will be very happy. When the time comes, it should be easy to ask them for a bone coffin. Old Ninth thought for a moment and said, "Wait for me here. I'll be back soon." "I'll have to trouble you," Jiang Chun said softly. Then, Old Ninth directly tore through the void and left. Jiang Chun stood at the entrance of the main hall, waiting for Old Ninth to return. "Master," half a day later, a crisp and pleasant voice came from not far away. Only to see Jiu Tian was like a little fairy, skipping over to Jiang Chun's side. Her memory had not recovered yet. Now, she was as pure as a piece of white paper. Moreover, in her memory, she only remembered Jiang Chun alone. Sometimes Jiang Chun was also very puzzled. Just how much resentment did Jiu Tian have towards him back then? After losing her memory, she actually still remembered him. "Little Xia, long time no see. Have you been obedient during this period of time?" Jiang Chun smiled as he rubbed Jiu Tian's head. He could not help feeling a trace of guilt in his heart. After all, it was Jiu Tian who had blocked for him once back then. Although it was an accident, Jiang Chun still felt very apologetic in his heart. "Little Xia has been very obedient." Jiu Tian blinked her big watery eyes and said, "That strange grandpa said that he could help little Xia recover her memory." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.